Good evening. This is the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for Tuesday, October 1st, 2013. The Board of Appeals will conduct this meeting according to the rules laid out in Chapter 40A of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Robert's Rules of Order, and its own particular set of rules entitled Rules of Procedure, a copy of which is on file with the town clerk, and other copies available from the clerk at this meeting. This meeting is being tape recorded for the purpose of taking minutes. Once the minutes are approved, the tape may be taped over. All right, let's open that business meeting, folks.
Finance report. Revolving, since, I think we haven't met since August. So there's deposits for tonight's 9 Lake Ridge. The revolving hours, Staples. The chair we originally purchased from Staples was a piece of junk, basically. It was $99. It was falling apart. So what you see underneath is the credit I got from Staples for $100. And that's the credit for the bad chair, and we were able to get another one, but it had to come out of revolving and not expense, because that's where the credit memo, that's where it came out of was it last year or the year before?
Oh, they hadn't split it at that point.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
so that's why it's coming out of revolving. And then there's a deposit for Nelson Street for November 5th. Underneath that is the expense line item spreadsheet. That's all I've spent the last warrant you signed for supplies. So the calendars and things like that. Haven't gotten the first phone bill yet. But now if you look on top, see how I've split the 860 differently? It's got, for the phone bill, $410, because I had $9 left. I just made it with the phone bill.
Oh, so we're beyond the Staples receipt right now? Okay.
Yep,
Yep.
sorry, right after it, right after the,
New business.
I get new business.
you don't have the spreadsheet, the expense?
I do not.
I do not.
Copy machine ate it. Okay, so the 860 we have for expense, I split it differently, and so we only, because we didn't use as much postage, and we put 250 in there last year, so the postage just stays and rolls over, like revolving. So we have $410 for the phone bills, and we have $400 for supplies. But if I need to move some of that and we need postage, we just move it over.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep,
Sorry about that. I don't know.
it's okay.
All right.
Sometimes when I feed the packet through the feeder, I try and watch it, so sometimes it'll take 2 pages.
Yeah, mine does that.
Yeah.
Once in a while.
Okay, minutes.
At the count pages.
So Sharon's not here, obviously. So the 24 Pillsbury minutes, Dave, you're gonna abstain, and Paul's gonna abstain from the other ones,
Mm-hmm.
because
I abstained from Maine,
yeah.
and then Dave abstains from 24 Pillsbury.
Right.
Okay, I see. Yep.
So when you make the motions,
All right. Someone like to make a motion for the business minutes?
I move that we approve the business minutes of 8/16/2013.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Then,
Discussion. I move that we approve the minutes of, the minutes for 24 Pillsbury Lane dated 8/6/2013.
So, second.
thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Discussion.
Dave? Kidding.
And I move that we approve the minutes for 144 East Main Street dated 8/6/2013.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All
I'll
abstain.
abstain.
Yep.
Okay.
The meeting schedule.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Every October.
Where's the list of appointments?
Look in the, go to the, the only two
It's a little
dates,
short list.
the only two dates is
It's awfully short.
is the July meeting and the November meeting. If you look at the calendar underneath, I gave you a color calendar. If you look at July 4th, it's a Friday, so we can either meet the 1st, the 8th. The thing is you think you're gonna go away the beginning of the 4th, or they're at the end of, I don't know, I mean,
I'd
we
say
can
the
just.
8th.
The 8th makes more
The
sense
8th.
to me.
Yeah.
Change it to the second Tuesday then. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Then we have an election, November 4th.
Already?
And then, if we move it to the second Tuesday, it's Veterans Day and the believe the building's closed. Yeah, it is closed.
Yeah.
So I'm looking to move it to October 28th, so it'll be a week before.
Why is October 7th? Oh, that's the first
It is
Tuesday.
meeting.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's assumed
October
it's gonna be
7th
on
is
the-
our regular for
So
October.
3 weeks later.
So it's 3 weeks later instead of 4 because of the election. I can't move it down because of Veterans Day.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like a
who
whole
knows, we
scheme of
might not
things.
have a
Might not
hearing
even-
anyways.
Right.
Haven't, you know.
Go do the
That's
28th.
like this month, next year, you're gonna have 2 in a row.
So, okay,
How busy are
28th?
you?
Yep.
It works.
We're around.
I'm
Better
sorry.
than vacation. Yeah, I know, me
But
too.
we'll have extra members then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We take turns.
Yeah, where's the list of new members?
Correspondence is just the denial for 9 Lake Ridge for tonight. The other one is for November 5th. It would have been tonight, but his application was incomplete. So that'll be November 5th. That's the one you have in the envelope under your agenda.
Mhm.
I think there's still time to get another one in. I don't think I will. But like I said, there was an inquiry at the window for, it was an attorney. She did a request for public information. She wanted a copy of file we have on this church steeple cell antenna. They were looking at one on top of Georgetown Savings Bank. So when you look at the use schedule, the height there is 40 feet. John happened to be there and looked it up for the bank, but they may not. There was Verizon, and we get a lot of coverage for Verizon. I think it's up on Ballpate, because she was asking, you know.
They,
But she's not sure they'll even go. You know, she's
have
just.
they been talking to T-Mobile at all?
She hasn't, but I let her know about the highway. You know.
Well, yeah, but presumably they're pretty well aware of that, but I'm just talking about co-location. Because one of the well, not to get into it too deeply here, but one of the things that we tried to do was in the T-Mobile design at the church to move everything up as high as possible to allow for co-location there so we don't have to deal with this again. That project, to my understanding, hasn't moved forward yet with any construction, but it doesn't mean that they couldn't
All the-
piggyback on an allowed use.
With the church right now, all the permits have everything's lapsed. Our
Well, the
permits
variance
lapsed.
didn't lapse.
They never filed for a building permit because AT&T they got purchased by. I don't know if they actually did, but they were supposedly purchased by AT&T, and then something happened, and
Yeah, I
then
remember Jackie Slago.
I had emailed there was a different attorney, and then there was a different project manager who I got his name from John, and then I sent him a reminder, even though it's not my job. Sent him a reminder that your permit's about to expire. And
The building permit you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they can get another building permit. The decision in the allowance for that use, though, did not
Mhm.
expire, is what I'm getting at. They may have to come before, I can't remember what's in the decision, if if they're required to come before us for any
extension.
extension or
But-
anything for the design, but the decision that was granted by this board would not have expired. They've chosen to not yet move forward with it. But all I'm getting
But
at
if
is
it goes
there-
past 2 years for the special permit, right?
we
You
gave 'em a
lapse.
variance. We gave him a variance.
I have to look at the
Use variance.
decision. Yeah, I gotta.
It was a use variance for,
Okay.
and that's not gonna lapse, I don't believe. In any event,
Because it goes with the property, not the owner.
I don't know, I don't wanna speak out of turn, but
No.
just because they
Okay,
haven't
fine.
built yet, that decision, to my knowledge, is still in existence, and they still have the ability to use that location.
I mentioned
They
it
ought to
to
be
her.
talking to
Said,
them
do you want to
about
use
it.
the church? Because all the work's done.
Well, no, even if it was built, it doesn't.
Yeah.
The whole idea was that whether or not they can accommodate additional towers in
Yeah.
there or not, the whole idea was to try to maximize co-location,
Mhm.
so that the next carrier that comes along, we don't have to go through that whole
Whole
rigmarole
thing
all over again.
Right.
So
Mhm.
that was the
They
idea.
took
Push
the
push
prime
the
s-
antennas
They
as high.
took the prime space.
They did. No,
That's
I-
all,
what-
and that makes sense, but
So
we
is
made
there
them leave,
space below their
little
original
space below.
design that they
It's
could
still
maybe-
taller than the bank.
It's exactly, that's for the technical people to
Yes, it
sort
is.
out, but they ought to be aware that, well, anyway.
Okay. Well, she hasn't
was
come
John-
to pick up.
was John
She
here
hasn't
then?
come. She's coming back in to pick up the package. I'm sorry.
Was John here then? I can't remember who the buildings.
Yep.
Yeah, so he knows all about that.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm sure he's mentioned it as well.
The other correspondence, and it's just, I'm doing it under the word other because it came in after I had put the packets together. It's the Citizens Planner Training Collaborative fall schedule. And there's only two that are close at Merrimack Valley, 7 and 13. And of course, it's the night before the hearing, the writing of the decisions. It's the night before our next hearing, so, but if anybody's interested, I need to know soon,
We'll let you know.
okay?
Oh, right by the phone. What was that from? I didn't get that picture.
Yeah, it's next page.
Oh, I did.
Berlin Board of Appeals mission statement. When did we draft this mission statement, or is it the same one we use
That's
every
the
year?
same one we've been using.
Is this?
I gave you, we got an email from, this is the town report that was due September 23rd,
Oh,
and I got an email, not far from that, like a couple weeks before it was due, so I just had to do it. I sent it out to you guys in case you had any changes. I didn't hear back, so I'm assuming it was, I made sure it stayed consistent with special permit, use variance, special permit.
What, wait, what's the date of this?
This is for fiscal 13, so this ended June 30th, 13.
When was I,
So you were still an associate
oh, okay.
until July 1.
Thank
So
you.
the next
All
time
I
report,
thought it was
you'll-
June.
Yeah,
I
you'll be
meant-
back under regular.
Got it.
That's why.
Really? Great.
No, I already am under regular.
you are?
It's just you're off by a day.
How
on
did you
the-
manage to do that? Become regular again?
It was July 1st, not June 30th. It was the next day.
It was the next day, so I have
That's
to
why I was thinking it was
yeah, everything
June
has to go
1st. It
June
was
30th.
July 1st that it kicks in.
We gotta get more members.
So
to
we
that-
got,
Ready.
we
Yes.
do.
Contact PT.
I don't know what we can do to try to like.
Paul
we
Thompson.
need to,
We
as
have-
a
Oh, okay.
board, write a letter to the selectmen or
We
something.
just need to make it more fun.
Well, they put it in the,
I don't know how much more fun it can be.
Yeah, it was more
put it
fun
in the
than us.
paper all the time.
It is
okay?
in the
Because
paper?
the town is starving for members
Yeah.
on numerous boards. Doesn't help. You know, the only way I think it would be to reach out to some you know who might be willing to volunteer some time. Like
Dave Flanagan, if you're watching.
like Paul, I know you're watching, okay? And as soon as the golf clubs hang up, I think we
Like
can
a-
grab him for 6-7 months.
No
So
wigs.
here.
Just-
And then this is a,
Good.
oh, our town report, oh, of all the, different hearings we've had.
Yep.
Excellent. Wow.
So, and now I started doing the filing fiscally because of the town report. That's the way my,
So
Excellent.
why
It's
can't
done.
Yep.
that's why on the first page you
surface
see
recruit other people?
12-07, it's the calendar year filing, but so I have two file numbers on those
Okay.
first
Yep.
couple. From now on, it'll be. And then the old
Oh, this is
business
good.
is Jeff.
What's that? Oh, you're talking
Business
about the
is
application?
Jeff.
Your old business.
Oh, yeah, I got all the old business.
You got the business, all right.
Yeah, as far as the application modifications and rules of procedure, I agreed with Paul that now that school's back in session and I'm around a little
Okay.
bit more, I would.
Pull this part
agree to-
out and use this one, because I revised it.
Okay, so this,
Again?
what's in here is
Yeah.
the latest thing?
And I
Okay.
did the water resource, cause might as well, the water resource application's terrible. It doesn't say everything, you know, it should say everything you need, they should be consistent, I
Mhm.
think.
Well, the other, the application is a huge leap forward already. I can tell, just, I mean, I have looked at it, I just haven't thought enough
Yeah.
to look,
I mean, and I put
dot i's and cross t's,
a
but,
fee for floodplain application, which we don't even have in there.
yeah. But the thing that's also critical to get done is a rules of procedure under special, existing non-conforming
Mhm.
structures. Because it's no longer consistent with, recent court decisions, so.
That should also change in the bylaw too.
Briefly, what's the difference between the new proposed water resource application versus the old one?
The old one,
Are there any, I mean, obviously you've made some changes.
oh yeah, I
just-
added it to mirror the zoning, look at the zoning application. Well, I attached it, it's right underneath.
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I know. I just
Um,
wondered if you knew off the top of your head what areas I should be looking at.
Okay, hold on.
No, I mean,
4,
All of
page
them.
Thank
2, page 2 of the new water
Checklist?
resource.
yep,
The checklist, the application checklist. The number of
Oh.
copies is a little more clearer.
oh, you
And
added a checklist. Oh,
Then
yeah.
on the last page for the hearing request, where they have room to sign,
Yep,
which
It's actually a lot
they really don't.
more comprehensive.
checklist, yep. But essentially
Because I'm just,
the issues that need to address are exactly the same, correct?
Yes.
You're just making okay,
Yes.
I understand.
what they need, because I'm just repeating myself over and over
Yep,
and
yep,
over.
yep, no,
And I'm even
Great.
working on an instruction sheet for just the regular application, because they'll
yep,
come in with, instead of 12 sets of everything, how many sets of a whole, everything will be separate.
right. Yes, right, instead of a set,
Yeah,
right.
so it's, and that
Should
is
do
all,
it.
you have the next hearing. So do you want me to put off the ZBA application and rules of procedure to November?
Yes.
Indefinitely.
Yeah,
I
just
would
leave
leave
it
it-
on there.
Leave it off
Leave it
until,
on
or
there.
leave it on, or leave it off until Jeff gives you the thumbs up. that-
Yeah, that's
Or
probably.
Why don't we do that? It's on an action item to get it.
So leave it off
Yeah.
until he's.
At what point how far in advance of the business meeting do you have to have it on the
I
agenda?
post the agenda the week before.
So, I'll let you know, at least the week before. You'll let me know.
Yeah,
You'll remind me.
okay.
I'm
Maybe
so
a
disappointed.
couple of us could get together, actually. Go through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's actually a good process.
Let's do it tonight after this meeting.
Yeah, all right. That's good.
That'll be fun.
That's a good time to get out of here.
Do you- the
Um,
I'll
next
make the
time,
call.
the next time we don't have a hearing, maybe we have a working session.
Yeah, we've done that before. It's
Mhm.
it's good.
That's my suggestion. And it can be at Cam's.
Alrighty. Anything else for this business meeting?
It's being taped.
No, yeah,
Somebody like to make a motion to close this business meeting?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Could you ask them to, we got 5 minutes, can they turn the camera
Yeah.
off?
Christine, can we take a 5-minute recess, please?
Unless we want to put in our ad.
Okay.
And we're on,
There we go.
folks. We are opening the zoning board of appeals hearing for number 9 Lake Ridge Drive, Georgetown, Mass. The Board of Appeals will conduct this meeting according to the rules laid out in Chapter 40A of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Robert's Rules of Order, and its own particular set of rules entitled Rules of Procedure, a copy of which is on file with the town clerk. Another copy is available from the clerk at this meeting. This meeting is being tape recorded for the purpose of taking minutes. Once the minutes are approved, the tape may be taped over. Would you read the legal notice, please?
Legal notice, Town of Georgetown Zoning Board of Appeals, 9 Lake Ridge Drive. A public hearing will be held on October 1, 2013 at 7:30 p.m. at the Georgetown Town Hall, 3rd floor meeting room, for a special permit request for 9 Lake Ridge Drive, Georgetown, Mass, for an application filed by Dana and Kiko Skinner of Haverhill and current owner John Enos of 9 Lake Ridge Drive, Georgetown, Mass. John Enos currently has a purchase and sale agreement with Dana and Keiko Skinner of 129 Kingsbury Ave, Haverhill, Mass. 01835 to purchase the property. The applicants, the Skinners, are requesting a special permit for an accessory apartment in the basement of the home pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A, Section 9 in the Georgetown zoning bylaws. Chapter 165, Sections 9, 69, 78, and 79 for an accessory apartment in the basement of an existing single-family dwelling. The premises affected is 9 Lake Ridge Drive in the RA District and identified on the Assessor's Map 6D Lot 96, ZBA file number 1404.
Thank
Just
you.
a little FYI is she now owns the property. You closed on, what is it, August 28th?
August 28th.
So it's no longer John Enos, but at the time of the filing, there was a
Mhm.
P&S.
Okay, wonderful. The members of the board tonight are Gina Tebow, Jeff Moore, Dave Kapnis, and I'm Paul Schillen. So you may go ahead and tell us what your plans are.
Well, this apartment is for my in-laws, Bruce and Carol Skinner. They currently live in Chapley, Maine, and they're in their 80s, in need of a lot of help. No longer able to do the day-to-day things, and this summer, my father-in-law has been in and out of the hospital quite a bit for his heart condition and his respiratory condition, and my mother-in-law also has osteoarthritis. And so my husband and I decided to, this is the time to bring them into our home, and so I'm here to request the permission to make it into the basement, which is unfinished, to be a in-law apartment, the accessory apartment.
Did you apply for a permit, a building permit to do that? Is that how you got to us? Yep.
Yes, I did.
Okay, great.
Oh, you made some changes to the calculations. We need to
There's,
work
now that we're a third into the project and the washer and dryer has moved over a little bit, and that's what changed, actually the 414 is now 424 square foot. It's a 10 square foot difference.
It's 404.
Actually, I'm sorry, it's the closet. Yes,
on
the
424.
the
20.
total living area for the basement is 424 square feet.
So this plan here, which is the basement.
Exactly,
is-
exactly,
is,
yeah.
been
The-
slightly revised. is what-
Yeah, the only thing was, this closet here, in actuality, when we put the studs out there, if they were to be in a wheelchair, they couldn't open the door for the 30-inch door. So we just pushed it in towards the storage area so that the door would clear. And that gave that extra,
Oh, you took it out of the mechanical room?
I
The
took
other
it out
storage.
of the bedroom and put it, right, I
Yeah, you took that.
took it out of the
Yeah,
mechanical
yeah,
room.
I see. Which gave you a slightly bigger bedroom.
Just a little bit, right.
Gotcha, okay.
At the time, I wasn't sure how far the door would take up, and it was, I just didn't see how, we wanted to make it as wheelchair accessible as possible right now, because that's a pretty good possibility.
You can mark that on one of the, you mark that as an exhibit, just make a note on that for John.
Which
He's
one?
gonna go by that plan.
Lower level?
Is that the latest
The
one there?
basement, that's,
Lower
The
level
latest
basement?
one, the correct one, yeah.
Does that one
she
have the
didn't, I
changes?
didn't get a new plan, so
That one was from,
it's not marked on.
no, this
Okay,
one,
that's the same as what we have.
one in-
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Is yours revised or no?
No. I don't, she didn't give me a new plan. So that little change isn't noted on there, so we need to do that.
Basically, one closet was removed in the bedroom.
No, she bumped it back. How many feet back? The
So
2
it
foot?
was the 2 feet, so it's now flush to the wall, so the door can
Mhm.
open, and if they were in a wheelchair, they could kind of stroll straight in.
It's in the
Do you mind if I
mechanical
look
room.
at this?
Sure.
Can I do this?
Yeah, I put that up there. It's the same as what you have.
No, this one's been modified then.
Oh, it has?
Yeah.
Really?
This. Oh, no.
No.
No, it hasn't. Okay.
Right.
I didn't get a new one. So whatever one we mark as exhibit, when you do that,
Okay.
The
That's-
lower level
that's
basement.
the one I wanna take to go with the decision, and
Are you gonna mark it, Dave?
I did.
you wanna mark it as number or letter, like A?
Just a quick question. How come the bathroom isn't included? Does that?
That's just the standard
It's-
calc,
you
the
don't-
formula.
okay. Because it's not livable.
Yeah, you can't. It's, yeah, well, it's necessary, but not livable.
You could, I guess, if you
Yeah,
could.
it doesn't
I've
increase
never
the number
noticed
of
that
people that
before.
could be in the house, that kind of thing. You can't-
Right.
you don't
How
have
did
to
they,
say-
it has a walkout basement?
Yes,
And then you go upstairs, or is the grade drop behind the house?
it comes down, right.
So
It's
yep,
kind of totally underground on the front side,
yep,
and then the ground gradually comes down, and then it's actually, there's a sliding glass door that walks right out to the
Great.
backyard.
There was a picture.
yeah, it's, but only of the front, I didn't really,
Oh, gotcha.
I was just trying to figure out how eventually,
With a wheelchair.
yeah, I mean, how do we,
So you have a walkout basement to the rear, so like,
Right, I do, and in the future, because they're not in the wheelchair right now, and a little bit touchy subject with my in-laws, but, you know, our plan was also to have a chair lift in the stairs,
yep,
which we have looked at a few. They are not talking about it right just yet,
Yeah,
but
yeah, well,
that's our
that's-
plan.
that's your solution, I was just wondering how you're gonna get them in and out of there.
Right.
I mean, maybe from the back, but it's not a big deal, I just wondered how you do that. That's good.
so are there any changes to the exterior of the house as a result of the, I don't know if you're maybe making other changes which
No,
are
not-
outside the scope of.
Not at this time.
Okay, so there's nothing relating to the apartment that
Right.
changes the exterior of the house?
No.
Okay, yeah, so it will remain, obviously, the look and feel of the house is still a single family.
Same footprint
Yeah.
with, right.
Are they driving still? You know?
Currently, yes, as little as possible, but that was one of the things that up in Maine, one would have to drive the other one to the hospital or the doctor's appointments, and it was just getting incredibly more and more difficult, so, and it was difficult for us, it was 2 hours away.
Right,
So hopefully now, you know, I'll be able to help them, do that kind of, because it is 2 or 3 times a week. One of them has an appointment of some sort, so.
the only reason I was asking was, and it really, well, I should ask the question more directly, is about parking.
Mhm. We do
If they weren't
have
driving,
plenty
it's
of
not an issue,
parking on in the driveway, currently.
The plan just didn't show the drive or the parking area, so I wasn't sure
Oh.
how that's laid out, but,
That's okay, yeah, it's just a double bay straight
Yeah.
in.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
and
familiar
it's
with the
a,
house.
it's a double, two-car garage, but it actually, on the outside, you know, 3 cars fit
Yeah, you've got a
side by
double
side
wide
as
driveway there.
well.
Yeah,
Right.
okay. So it's not an issue as far as having to have cars on the street or anything like that?
Right.
Is there going to be an egress from the basement into the garage? So
Egress
they
from,
didn't- So they didn't have to go out the back?
well, they can walk around, but if the weather was bad, what we were thinking is that they would take our stairs.
The reason I'm asking
Inside.
is, I understand the age and everything, you know
Right.
what I mean? I'm just trying to think ahead of time.
I
like,
know,
Uh,
right,
you know, is there, you know, something you might wanna think about?
right.
Is maybe, you know, if the garage is in the front,
Mm-hmm,
okay, and it's adjacent to the living area for
Right.
them downstairs, maybe that's a spot where you try and put a door in, a
Right.
fire door, so they can at least come out that way and come
Right.
into the garage, because,
actually, there is a door at the back of the garage, and then there's a deck. On the original plan of the house that I happened to, receive from Mr. Enos at the time, had a stairs going down, exactly like you said, but they never put it in. And so it's sort of, the door sort of doesn't go down. The possibility is there, and it is something that, you're right,
I think it's gonna be a real challenge. You know, if their only way in and out is either coming in from around back or going upstairs.
That's why they're thinking of getting a lift
right,
in the stairs. Which is,
It's helpful.
yep. We were a little bit disappointed because Mr. Enos had a chairlift and he gave it away
Uh-oh.
before.
Oh.
Jack gave it away.
They're expensive.
I know,
If he knew, he would have.
I know.
He's a sweetheart.
I know.
well, it's not, it's the right size and there's no visual impact. Can't really see any challenges with this, can you?
Oh, sorry, new correspondence, whoops. I did that first. And I put that'll be should probably be a condition.
What, I'm sorry, what was the exhibit number? Is it
A,
A.
exhibit A?
And I need to just get that before we
can have it.
leave. Okay.
Was this requested from you, Patty? You want me to read
Yes,
this?
I usually check with the Board of Health on the number of bedrooms and
3-bedroom max. Do we still
that-
fall within that? 1 downstairs and 2 upstairs, 3-bedroom
Right.
max? Yep. Should I read this as a correspondence?
yes, please.
Hi, Patty. This is from Virginia Bacon, of the health inspector of the town of Georgetown. Hi, Patty. 9 Lake Ridge Drive is a 3-bedroom, 7-room max, which includes the accessory apartment. How was that? Pretty good.
Oh, well done.
Very important.
Well, I
Is there
threw it
anyone
in.
here
I threw it in there.
That wants to be heard on this?
I do.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
question. Any audience participation on this hearing? Okay. Thank you, Dave. Sorry about that.
Oh,
Seemed
I'm
kind
here
of
for-
quiet out
I'm here
there.
How's your list? Anything else on the list?
No. Oh, you don't know. Someone could make
I
a,
usually go through the fact that special permits in this case, go with the ownership and not with the property. So, if the permit's to be granted and you move ahead with that work, should you sell the house, that would perhaps need to be reversed if the new applicant the new owner would have to come before the board to reapply for a new special
Right,
permit.
I
So,
understand.
in your case, your construction is sort of to a minimum in the basement. We've seen pretty expansive plans that are gonna be restricted to ownership of the property, so people can
Right.
carry away with these things sometimes. But, just so that you're aware, and, that, we generally restrict, the occupancy, but in the bylaw, it's restricted to, relatives of the owner only, so you cannot rent the property out under the special permit. So it would have to be a blood relative.
Right.
Doesn't have to be the in-laws that you've, noted tonight, but it has to be a blood relative.
Right,
So,
okay.
in the future, and you would not be able to rent the property out to
Right.
anybody else. And the plans would be limited or restricted to what you presented
Yes.
tonight. That's why it's important to get that plan correct. You might want to note on there, has she marked that up to show the modification that you talked about with the
Well,
closet?
that's what I was just looking at this, I was just gonna ask Dave, where was the washer dryer?
I think you ought to have her mark it up if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Down here now.
Could you do it right on there so that
Let me give you a blue
we
pen,
can just be clear about it and there's gonna be no issue?
so I can scan this and cut. So just mark what was moved, how many
I don't know if
feet,
there's anything else.
cause that will go with, to the building inspector
Is
too.
there a decent motion there?
Sure.
Great.
Yeah, can you just put into the record that you're marking this as exhibit
B.
B?
For the record,
Great.
the plot plan for 9 Lake Ridge Drive, Georgetown, Mass. Is noted as Exhibit B. Thank you.
So, on your motion there,
Yes.
Yeah, I got it.
see number 5, switch them, A and B. I did it the other way around. So it's B for plot plan, A for. For the basement.
Oh,
Say it's A and B, I
I
put A
added
and
it,
B and
I
I did
added
it.
it up here, but, okay, that's fine.
We reversed it.
Okay. We'll just figure it out.
Ready for motion?
We're gonna wait for
Yeah,
her
she's
to
just
mark up the
oh,
plan.
okay.
That would be
Is that
Exhibit.
okay?
You gotta read the
Yes.
Mhm.
Got it.
I have it right here.
Oh, you got it?
Yep.
Great.
So, can we just sort of pass that around for a
Yep.
minute? Just to make sure. Just added 600 square feet to it. Just kidding. Fifth story, what?
Nothing here that reflects the relocation of laundry. Isn't that what we were talking about before?
No, the closet.
Closet, she
closet,
said she moved the
okay.
closet.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's very neatly done. It's a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got it, yep, looks good.
Bring it on.
yeah, it's
Good,
great.
good. Well, I'm ready to make a motion if anybody else
You could just hand that over to Patty.
got any.
No, I think we're in good shape.
So then I would move that this board grant a special permit to Dana and Kiko, is that right?
Keiko.
Keiko Skinner of 9 Lakewood Drive in the RA District and identified on Assessor's Map 6D, Lot 96, for an accessory apartment in the basement of the existing single-family dwelling. The accessory apartment shall be 424 square feet and be occupied by Dana Skinner's parents, Bruce and Carol Skinner, of 41 Oak Hill Road, Shapley,
Shapley, Maine.
Maine, 04076, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 9, and the Georgetown zoning bylaws, Chapter 165, Sections 9, 69, 78, and 79, with the following conditions. The accessory apartment be occupied by relatives of the owner only, not to be used as a rental property, and the primary dwelling must be owner-occupied per bylaw, Chapter 165, 69B. If the house is sold, transferred, or if there is any change in occupancy, the special permit lapses and the new owner must apply to the board for a new special permit. The apartment shall be inspected by the building inspector before occupancy per chapters 165-69D. The entire home, including the accessory apartment, be no more than 3 bedrooms, 7-room maximum per the Board of Health correspondence dated 8/14/2013. Apartment should be built per plan submitted in the ZBA application, interior only. Plot plan certified by BME Engineering Inc., 9 Walnut Street, Saugus, Mass., dated June 18th, 1988, marked as Exhibit B. And the lower level basement plan drawn for accessory apartment 8/12/2013, marked as Exhibit A. Is that right? Did I get those right, Patty?
Yeah, just built her plan submitted in the ZBA application, so we amended that. So it was submitted,
And amended.
A,
Yep.
submitted and amended, how about that?
Okay, the board further finds, I move that the board further find that the application meets the zoning bylaw chapters 165, 79A through D as follows. The application is desirable to the public convenience or welfare, will not overload any public water or other municipal services so as to unduly subject any area to hazards affecting health, safety, or the general welfare, will not impair the integrity or character of the district or adjoining districts, and will not cause an excess of that particular use which could be detrimental to the character of the neighborhood.
Someone like to second that motion? Board discussion?
I'm good.
No, I'm good.
I think it's well done, kept it within the confines of the existing structure, which is important for the character of the neighborhood, and you kept it reasonable and functional for what you need, so that's
Thank you.
nice job.
Thank you very much.
Wish you luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, go
We
ahead.
do.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, well, you're granted your permit. The zoning clerk has 14 days to file a decision. Any appeal of the decision shall be made pursuant of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 17, within 20 days after the date of the notice of the decision was filed with the town clerk. An applicant may file this decision before the 20 days, but does so at their own risk. Lapse of a special permit, yes. Per Mass General Law 40A, Section 9, special permits granted shall lapse within a specified period of time, not more than 2 years, which shall not include such time required to pursue or await the determination of an appeal referred to in Section 17, if a substantial use thereof has not sooner commenced except for good cause, or in the case of permit for construction, if construction has not begun by such date except for good cause. Good luck with that one.
Yeah, how that's worded.
Basically, you have 2 years to start it,
Okay.
right? Essentially.
Okay.
Okay, motion to close?
Unless you have good cause.
Oh, motion to close.
I'd like
So-
to make a motion to close
The hearing.
the hearing. Is that, do you have to
Yes.
For
say?
9 Lake Ridge.
9 Lake Ridge Drive.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Hearing's closed. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you'll hear from me, when the decision is ready,
Thank you.
okay? And I'll give you the
You
instructions
guys
to
want
go to the
a
registry.
3-minute quick break,
Thank you.
or do you wanna go right into the next hearing?
I'm all set.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll
Here
move
we
it.
go.
Moving right along.
Gina, you wanna just take that board down so he can put his boards up?
Yeah.
Take the whole thing down, just like throw it behind you for now, cause they have their own boards. Thank you. I'll get it later. These are for you guys. This was a page that is not with the application, and these are the 2 decisions we're gonna be talking about. You got it all last.
No, I don't. This is
Yeah.
the only time I did that, because,
I always do it like.
You guys,
no, I know, I generally, on this,
take one and pass one down. This is a page that you don't have in your application. It's the sign with the dimensions and the 2 decisions that we're amending. Just, yeah, so, let me give one
Why
to,
don't we have the two decisions? We already have a list.
I just made them handier for you
Okay.
and put them with that plan.
All right, so this
Is
is.
the plans
we-
you have-
We have this in your packet as well, you guys, not this, not
Yeah,
this-
that plan
All
is
right.
not in the packet.
Right.
It has the dimensions. You have a picture of the sign without dimensions, but that has the dimensions.
You guys, here you
Wow.
go.
Now that's a.
That's a locus plan.
Gina, would you like to read the legal notice for me when it comes time?
Sure. So we just wanna make sure we mark all of these too. And here's the new correspondence. I don't. This is just some conservation, so this is from August, so it's just an update that they're still working with conservation. I don't know if you wanna read
Is
them.
that, well, as correspondence?
Yeah, I just talked to the agent, so, it was new correspondence when we were supposed to open in September,
Yep.
so now it's been updated.
All right, so I'll
Kind of-
read the updated
yeah.
correspondence, okay?
And I don't know if you wanna get into this, this was a previous correspondence from 2009 about the sign. That's up to you.
No, we don't,
Yeah.
because they're applying for a new one anyways.
Right,
So, yeah,
let's-
all right,
if you don't wanna
thank
go there.
Yeah. All right, you guys ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Yeah, Jeff?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. We are opening the hearing for 6474 East Main Street. The Board of Appeals will conduct this meeting according to the rules laid out in Chapter 40A of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Robert's Rule of Order, and its own particular set of rules entitled Rules of Procedure, a copy of which is on file with the town clerk. Another copy is available from the clerk at this meeting. This meeting is being tape recorded for the purpose of taking minutes. Once the minutes are approved, tape may be taped over. Could you read the
Yep,
legal ad, please?
The legal notice, the Town of Georgetown Zoning Board of Appeals special permit for alteration or extension of pre-existing lawful non-conforming use and structure, use variance and modification variance decisions, and water resource special permit. Public hearing will be 64 to 74 East Main Street, September 3rd, 2013. Should I say it's been changed to October? It's been changed to October 1st, 2013.
thank you.
Location is Georgetown Hall, third floor, after the 7:30 p.m. Applications, petitions have been made by Constantine G. Scrivanos. Did I say that right? Trustee, Mistra Realty Trust, 3 Pluff Avenue, North Reading, Mass. 01864, owner of 64 through 74 East Main Street, Georgetown Plaza, Georgetown, Mass. 01833, in the RA District, and identified on Assessor's Map 11A, Lot 85. The proposal includes exterior and interior updates and site alterations and uses, I'm not having a good time here, involving no change in building size or square footage, but require a special permit to allow for change, extension, or alteration of a pre-existing lawful non-conforming use or structure, exterior building only, a use variance to allow additional uses in RA zone, and modifications to 2 variant section 6 finding decisions to modify, amend 2 previous CBA decisions 9717 and 0209 in regard to the existing pylon sign pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A, Section 6, 9, and 10, and the Georgetown zoning bylaws, Chapter 165, Sections 9, 78, 79, 84, 87, and 94. A water resource special permit is required for a sewage flow exceeding 110 gallons per day. per 10,000 square feet of lot area pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A, Section 9, and Chapter 165, Article 5, Sections 29 through 39 of the Georgetown zoning bylaws. ZBA file number 14-03.
Thank you. Just for the record, the members today are Gina Tebow to my right, Jeff Moore, Dave Kapnis, and I'm Paul Schillen. And the applicant presentation, you may, I'll get the correspondence later, so you may go ahead and lay it out for us.
Okay. Well, good evening, Mr. Chairman and other board members. My name is John Smolak, with the firm of Smolak and Vaughn, the attorney for the applicant. And with me this evening are Chris Baragis of Williams and Baragis, our project engineer, as well as Matt Juris of Fishbrook Design Studio, our project architect, to my left and your right. And also with us is Rosanna Francis, the real estate manager for the applicant, who is behind me as well. In terms of the requested relief, I wanted to mention a couple things in terms of the request for a special permit for an extension or alteration or a pre-existing non-conforming use of structure. Wanted to mention that that requested relief is specifically related to the parking and related site improvements. And as you may have read in the denial letter from the building inspector, he indicated that no zoning relief was required for the exterior of the building. Basically, there are cosmetic changes being made. And also, the building inspector has indicated that with respect to the septic improvements, that wouldn't require zoning relief either. And in terms of the variance relief, as has been indicated, we're requesting modifications to existing conditions within prior decisions from 2002 and 2002 and 1997, which relate to the existing standing sign, as well as proposed uses that we'd like to pursue for the property. And also the Water Resources District Special Permit, which we fall within that Water Resources Protection District, and I think, in all honesty, that property has been in that district for many, many years and was not identified by the prior building inspector back in 1998. So basically, we're looking for reaffirmation that we meet standards, and we can discuss that a little bit further if need be. What I'd like to do first is just give you a little bit of background in terms of the locus. I think everyone's familiar with the general area, but also discuss the existing conditions on the property and a little bit of the site history. And so with reference to that existing conditions plan, I'll just use this laser pen. The property is approximately 2.6 acres in size, and what I'll do is just outline the property boundaries in this area. And to the north, the northeast or the rear of the site is Penn Brook, and the adjacent riverfront area to Penn Brook, as well as some athletic fields, as you see. To the northwest of the site, or to the left, are several residences in this area, behind which is, I think it's a Verizon switching station, existing single-story brick building. And to the southeast of the site, or the right, is a existing residence in this area before you get to Pembroke Road. And across the street, across from Route 133, is Napa Auto Parts, Johnny's Place, and the Getty gas station in those areas here. So, in terms of existing conditions, I guess what this plan shows is existing conditions, and also, faintly, you could see some of the proposed improvements. But in terms of the existing improvements on the site, there's an existing single-story building of 19,670 square feet in size, which has been there for many, many, many years. As part of this proposal, there'll be no change in square footage for this proposal. The site also includes a total of 62 striped parking spaces along the front of the building in three separate rows. In addition, the building includes the existing standing sign, which is in this location. The building is also served by existing septic system with improvements in this area, as well as along this area as well. And the site has been owned by the applicant since 1998, when the last set of improvements have been made to the property. In terms of site history, if you look at the town records, it appears that the site was either approved for or used for a variety of commercial, retail uses and other uses since Actually, it was approved for some uses in 1955. Then, as the building inspector's determination indicated, there was a grocery store that was approved back in 1962. And since that time, just looking through all the decisions over the past 50 years, the site's been used for other retail stores, a liquor store, industrial uses involving solvents. That was operated by the former Western Electric back in the 70s. Also, there was a small engine repair service shop or a bike shop, light industrial uses, a video store, and restaurant uses. So there are a variety of different uses over the years as market conditions changed. Currently, there are 3 tenants within the property, the existing Dunkin' Donuts in this area, and a physical therapy and a medical office use in the property. And the reasons for the upgrade are really threefold. First, the property is about 2/3 vacant, and it's very difficult and it's very challenging in this market to secure high-quality tenants that we want for this property. And what the applicant has heard time and time again is the issue of lack of adequate parking to service the proposed uses. Secondly, the existing building hasn't been renovated for over 15 years, and it's getting to the end of its useful life in terms of the exterior. And what we're looking to do is to sort of reskin that building to make it look much better in terms of appearance. Also, and you have the materials in your in your packages which identify elevations which show basically what we're trying to do with that exterior elevation. We also want the freestanding sign in the front to match the coloring of that elevation and really upgrade it to try to attract the quality tenants that we want to attract there. And so while the parking and the upgrading of the exterior are really the driving force, the other third benefit to this is that there will be some improved environmental conditions on the property. We've been meeting with the Conservation Commission. We're looking to try to institute or install stormwater controls when none really exist. And that's particularly important with respect to the adjacent Penn Brook and the riverfront area. We're trying to restore some of that area as well while we propose to undertake those improvements. And so in terms of the site improvements, as to the parking, the project proposes the replacement of the existing gravel area you see around the perimeter of the building with a number of new parking spaces, approximately 15 in total. That would be also improved with pervious pavement to provide for some stormwater controls and treatment, and that was discussed with the Conservation Commission. That's correct.
And also, the proposal includes an extension of the parking in this area for an additional 21 parking spaces. And it's actually on the site plan, shows a little more clearly where that proposed parking would be. So in addition to the parking row here, we're looking at opportunities to include spaces here, to the rear of the site, and to the side of the property around the perimeter. And if you've driven around that building recently, you'll see it's an unimproved graveled area, and it's pretty rutted in some areas. You could lose your car in some of those deep potholes. So what we're trying to do is not only upgrade that area, which has always been graveled for a number of years, but try to bring some control and stabilization to that rear of the area with these pervious pavers to provide some stability in that area, which in turn will enhance the riverfront area along Penn Brook. And in addition, the project will also involve some enhanced upgrade of the septic system, which will, with leaching area in this area, under the parking area. And also, there'll be a number of low-impact development mechanisms and techniques to be incorporated into the proposed site plan, which we can get into detail later if you'd like to hear that. So those are the exterior, sort of the surface improvements. The proposed renovations concerning the building are, again, cosmetic in nature. And you have in your materials, in your exhibit, you have elevations which depict the proposed elevations and the colors. Basically, we're replacing existing vinyl siding with hardy board. And so we're also, with respect to the storefronts, we're adding a new storefront glazing system with brick and masonry.
And those colors are to match the cladding and the trim, and there'll be new doors and windows to be added to the spaces to the rear of the building. And again, as I indicated, the building inspector has indicated that those building improvements don't require zoning relief because they're basically cosmetic in nature. In addition, the freestanding sign, as you see in your materials, will be renovated and improved. And if, Chris, if you don't mind, you have an example of this in your materials. But basically, to the left is the sign that was as approved. Oops. And to the right is the proposed signage. Very little is changing. The only changes are that the sign width might be narrowed a bit, and also the coloring will be changed. It'll still be a wood trim type of situation, but what we're trying to do is, again, as part of the upgrade, try to match the sign, the standard sign color with the building improvements. Also, as you know, this proposal is currently being reviewed by the Conservation Commission. It'll require Board of Health approval and Planning Board site plan approval as well, assuming that the board votes affirmatively for this proposal. In addition, the third component is the issue of proposed uses on the property. Again, we're having a difficult time marketing for proposed tenants. Again, primarily because of parking, but also because of the inability to quickly secure types of uses that we think tenants would be interested in. And so in the materials we provided, we're requesting a use variance or a modification to the 1997 decision, which allowed for a use variance to allow what's there today, to include retail stores, business and medical offices, an animal hospital, printing shop, restaurant, nursery school. These types of uses are the types of uses that are typically allowed across the street, and so I think that it still fits in with the neighborhood. But we also note that because of the constraints in terms of the parking and because of the constraints on the design capacity for the septic system, those are going to be natural constraints in terms of the intensity of the use of this property. So we don't envision that the intensity is going to increase significantly at all because of these other natural restrictions that are going to prohibit us from intensifying the uses. And the likely situation is that it'll be more office in all reality. But those, again, those are the types of uses that we're looking at. And again, those are uses that are allowed in commercial districts in the town under the zoning bylaws. The third item is the application for the Water Resources District special permit. We've submitted materials, and Chris Sparagus has also provided some information on how we meet the standards for the Water Protection District special permit. We think basically with the improvements that we're making to stormwater and to the wetlands areas, and we feel that we're actually improving existing conditions, improving the site as compared to existing conditions. And again, the Conservation Commission is reviewing that at this point. I can go on and
Good, no.
if I need to, but in terms of the specific relief requested, I mean, the memorandum that we've submitted as part of the application indicates how we feel we meet the criteria as well as the variance criteria. But again, I guess in terms of the requested variances, in terms of the sign, and also other matters, what the building inspector has indicated is that the 1997 decision was the real driver in terms of what really governs the site. And that 1997 decision was what led to the renovation of the proposed building, of the building, and to what exists today. And the building inspector identified 6 or 7 conditions that would need to be modified, principally because what we're doing is we're swapping out plans from what was approved back in '97 to today, both in terms of the signage and the parking improvements and the other improvements on site. But and I can get into that if you like at this point, or would you want
Briefly,
to?
what are those, can you track those conditions
Sure.
down that we're
Sure,
going to be amending, if that's
Sure.
okay?
sure. If you have the 97,
It's right to your left, Paul.
Well,
Yeah. That's the one he's looking at right now.
Yeah, the 97 decision on the first page identifies a numbered conditions. And condition number 1 referenced the plans as they relate to the signs and the improvement. Basically, what we'd be doing is swapping out those plans to the plans that you see, that you've had been submitted this evening.
Can I interrupt for just a second? Just,
Sure.
To back up, this original decision was really to allow a restaurant at that time. Is that correct?
Well, it's restaurant is to allow a use variance and also to allow for certain other improvements. I think there were signage improvements as well. And then
Okay.
there was, the O2 decision clarified the freestanding sign improvements. But we understand that there were a set of plans that were submitted at that
That's right.
time.
Okay.
Don't have a record of those, but what we've done is we've provided elevations, which basically mimic what's out there today. And so what we're doing is again, swapping out some of those plans. But in the 97 decision, as I said, number 1 was the reference plans, and we're substituting new plans. Number 4, where the building inspector said that condition number 4 would need to be removed to allow two-way traffic. And basically, we're not changing the traffic pattern. Actually, the plan shows one-way traffic in, one-way traffic out. That's right. So that condition wouldn't have to be modified. Then there was condition 5, which building inspector said would need to be removed for the proposed entrance and egress widths. Condition 5 states in the 97 decision that the ingress and egress must be 50 feet wide. I mean, that's almost like, an airport runway width. I mean, compared to what we usually see these days. So what we're doing is we're reducing those widths. The north exit, which is in this area, that will be at a width of 31 feet at the property line. So right here. And also that would be 43 feet at the curb line over here. So it's slightly reduced, and we think that'll provide better traffic flow.
And that's actually the existing condition.
And that's
Yeah, I
the
was gonna
actual
say, what is
existing
it now?
condition.
Is
That's
it
the existing
not 50
condition.
feet?
It's not, it's a little bit
No.
less. It's 31 feet at the property line on the north, and from curb to curb along East Main Street, it's 43 feet at that exit, and it's a little bit less on the south end.
Yeah, it's 31 feet here and then 40 feet on that curb line. So-
So just to clarify, you're not making any changes to the entrance and egresses?
Not
You're
under
just
current
asking
existing
for
conditions.
clarification of the condition itself?
Right,
meet
to reflect the
current-
existing condition.
Okay.
Right, right.
What are you gonna go with the, on the other end then? The north end is 31. How about the entry?
Yeah, that's also
Still gonna be 31?
31 with a 40-foot width at the curb line in this area.
But that's what it is, we're saying, is
And
that's what it
that's-
is right now.
That's
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
is.
I understand.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, so
But
and
that
then,
was just an oversight on somebody's part someday. The fact that they didn't actually build them at 50 feet.
right, right,
And the same with the little divider island on the egress,
right.
because that's always kind of a stickling point, where people, and they're in the middle, and everybody's backed up because nobody can get out, because this person wants to take a left.
Right, and that's actually, that was condition number 7.
So circle.
You
I
went
know.
ahead of me. And condition number 6 was the ingress shall be marked to allow for 2 lanes of incoming traffic, and actually what exists today is 1 lane.
And it will stay that way.
That's the proposal.
Yeah.
Correct.
And number 7.
And, yeah, number 7 was, a raised directional island must be constructed at the center of the egress for separated left and right turns at the exit onto East Main Street. I don't believe that exists.
It doesn't. And that's kind of a problem, even as it exists today, for traffic trying to get out of there. And adding more businesses and more traffic, I mean, that is an issue, and I think that would have been a real benefit to have that there.
To have that divided.
'Cause I can tell you, I've been stuck there many times.
Let's,
Because-
Well, and half the
Hey,
time,
guys,
people
let's-
don't use the in and out.
I'm sorry, just hold your questions. Let them, we'll finish, we can ask specific things and then we'll let the audience come up and then we can start to discuss
Sure.
all the other issues. So, yes,
So that was the set of conditions that we were seeking modification for, and Chris, I don't know if you wanted to get into the Water Resources Protection District special permit, other than the fact that,
I could explain, if it's up to Mr. Chairman and the members, that I can go through the proposed stormwater improvements if you think that would be
Yeah,
beneficial.
sure, yep.
I'm sorry, can I get your full name?
Sure, Chris Sparagus, it's S-P-A-R-A-G-E-S.
They need to meet the,
Oh, it's on the plan.
That's right, Williams and Sparagus, right?
Well, I don't know, there's a lot, so
Been a long
there's
day.
different, there's a whole different.
I'm just trying to
view,
get
yeah,
a,
the whole thing going.
what I'm trying to
May have
do is
revisit.
sort out everything for the board as to what exactly are the issues we're dealing with here, and then we'll discuss it in depth if we need to.
Okay, so, getting back to the existing conditions, Attorney Smolak mentioned that much of the rear access and along the side, this is all gravel, so the pavement stops about right here. And over along this side, the pavement stops about right here. The rest of this is all gravel, and it's a constant maintenance headache with the potholes. It gets regraded and sort of flattened out from time to time, but what happens inevitably is a lot of that stuff gets washed out into the brook, which is not a good thing. And Mr. Scrivanos is trying to stabilize this area, and because we're so close to the river, you know, our options were limited. We can't just pave it because we're within the riverfront area. And so we came up with an idea of actually eliminating about 2,000 square feet of existing pavement back into this area and create a whole section here of pervious pavement. And pervious pavement has many layers to it, and there are larger cracks, if you will, that allow stormwater to sort of go in, and it actually acts as a storage or detention basin in a lot of ways. And it does provide for some treatment. And so moving over to the proposed site plan, we're proposing to start our pervious pavement in through this area here and all through here. And on top of the septic system, we can't have that pervious pavement. It just doesn't work with all those layers on top of the septic system. And so this would be paved, but this pavement would pitch in this direction and come onto the pervious pavement, as with the rainwater that comes and falls onto the pervious pavement itself. And then our focus is no structures or just low impact development techniques. So we're not proposing curbing, we're not proposing catch basins or drain manholes. And one of the reasons is that the groundwater surface is very shallow. It's only a couple of feet below the surface. Even out front here, it's only about 2 to 3 feet below the surface. And it's just the way that the building was constructed years ago. They didn't take into account as much as they do today the elevation of the groundwater surface. And so our options were limited. We couldn't, you probably see a lot of site plans for new construction come through today with underground chambers, systems, things of that nature that allow us to store water under a parking lot. But in this case, because we were so close to the groundwater surface, there's just not enough room to put something underground. And so this is why we've chosen the pervious pavement. And then this green area here is a water quality swale that allows that provides additional treatment. So water would sheet off of the pervious pavement, anything that exceeded its capacity, and then eventually would run off into the treatment swale. And this is very flat, and it's sloped sort of in this direction. Any water that didn't infiltrate in some major storm event would make its way along the swale and then over a spillway that would then discharge to an existing stormwater management area and out to some existing treatment swales there were some improvements that were done back in 97, 98. And so we're trying to provide some additional treatment of stormwater as part of these improvements. And it's definitely going to be a significant improvement. Our first presentation in front of the Conservation Commission, we had a couple of members who were definitely in agreement that what we were proposing would definitely be an improvement over the existing condition. So, and for those reasons, that's why we feel that that we meet the requirements that are in that water, the special permit that we're seeking for water resources.
Excellent, thank you.
And there's an email from the conservation agent.
Yes, coming from Steve. What's his last name again?
Pajemski.
Pajemski. Hello, Patty. At the first hearing regarding this case, the Concom voted to hire a third-party reviewer to review both the wetland and the engineering. The hearing was continued to August 15th, and a site visit will be conducted this Thursday by the Conservation Commission to get a feel for the current site conditions. As we move through the review process, I will keep you in the loop.
And then he goes, if you look at the, it's kind of updated, I updated it kind of verbally. The email was down, as of yesterday. They're still working with conservation, they have a third-party, reviewer.
That's right.
And
BSC Group in
BSC.
Boston was selected as the town's reviewing agent. They've issued a letter that we're addressing comments at this point. The wetland line has been reviewed and certain wetland flags have been moved. We've updated the plan for that information, and so we're continued to October 17th at this point with the commission.
Okay. Thank you.
so they're working on the stormwater management.
Yep.
and,
Absolutely. I think that's a fairly good general understanding of what we're talking about here. So I'd like to invite, is there anyone in the audience that would like some input? No, there isn't.
Yes.
Oh, okay, could you, yeah, could you come forward and just tell us, give us your name and,
I'm Cynthia Hosappel, and I am their neighbor. I'm 60 East Main Street.
60.
I live, they are next door to me.
yep,
So our issue is maybe, doesn't concern is, this might not have anything to do with this board, but is the septic with the parking on top, and my yard goes the length from telephone company to front, the same as theirs. Theirs continues out back a little, more than we do, but not much is being said that the the leaching field is going to be higher than it is already now, which is taller than myself, which is over 5 feet, 6 feet. And cars are gonna be driving up and facing our property, which would probably make it almost, if I'm correct, 8, 9 feet above my yard, the leaching field.
In total, is it okay, Mr. Chairman, to answer a question? Or it's up to you.
yeah,
Okay.
go right ahead. You can address this specific question, sure.
I'm just giving you people an idea that what it will do to my property.
Absolutely.
Right, it's
Okay,
it's about
because-
6 to 7 feet above the existing grade on the, I always have a hard time with your last name.
Hosappel.
Hosappel.
Don't even worry about
Okay.
it.
Is there any type of buffer?
Sure, so,
between her
so,
property
yes,
and
so,
where these cows are gonna be parked? If they're gonna be I assume if they're gonna be facing her property and the hours of business until 11 o'clock,
that's right, that's
there
right.
could be a concern there on her part.
You know what, I don't, honestly, we have never had an issue with Dunkin' Donuts, the owners of Dunkin' Donuts, really. They close, the lights go down, very respectful to us. So my really issue is what it does to my property.
Mhm.
What it does to the price of my property, you know what it's all like in Georgetown on East Main Street, and that is not commercial land. It is not commercial land. It is owned privately. We've always given them permission to who goes in there. We've never had an issue with them, but I just want you people to realize that what will it do to my property?
Mhm.
You're concerned more about your property value than you are as far as how it could
No, I am
affect your
concerned.
style of life.
Well, it's not gonna, sitting out in my backyard with.
Yeah.
We always had a pool there, and just recently our pool is gone, so, I mean, am I gonna have cars driving up and slamming their doors and, looking over? They gonna give me a fence high enough that I'm not gonna see cars?
Is there a proposal for a fence?
Sure, so Mrs.
No,
Holzapfel.
I know, he
Okay.
told me that, but I want them to understand what none of that has been said
Right.
about.
And what's the grade change from her property to the top of the new proposed pavement?
So, it varies, it's between 6 and 7 feet.
Okay, on her side as well.
That's correct. That's right. So
There's,
I
there's an
can,
existing retaining wall as well in a portion, but that's in the back that,
That's part of the leaching field.
Right.
right.
Yes.
I can explain a little bit. So Mrs. Holzapfel and actually Mrs. Freeman had come to the Concom hearing, and we heard their concerns about how this is going to look sort of in that direction. And so we contacted them, and we had sort of a mini neighborhood meeting back on the 29th of August. And we took a walk over there to sort of get a visual. We talked about ways that we could screen the retaining wall that would that our site plan proposes along the property line. What our proposal was to have the retaining wall be only as high as the pavement, and then on top of that retaining wall, we would have a fence, if you will, that was either 42 inches high or 6 feet high. It would be a stockade type of fence that would sit on top of the guardrail system, so that if a car happened to decide to, and the parking spaces, if you will, are on this side, so someone would have to sort of, if someone chose to back into that spot, you know, the lights technically would be shining in that direction. So we wanted to have that as an option. And then we also proposed doing a fence in front of the retaining wall to sort of take the curse maybe off of that massing. And then after we talked at Duncan's, we went over and walked along the property line here, and there was a lot of vegetation along the property line. We asked Mr. Holzapfel if we could come out with our survey crew and locate all of the vegetation, all of the trees, and so we could put them on a plan to see what it would be like. We took some photos, and anywhere where there were gaps, because there's extensive landscaping on the Holzapfel side of the property, and anywhere there were gaps, Mr. Scrivanos offered to fill in with additional plantings, either as a vegetative screen or in combination with that fence on top of that retaining wall. So what we did, this plan shows the vegetation that we located by survey along the property line.
just by the way, that is not in the materials that we
It's just a
filed.
presentation.
It's just a presentation piece.
That's right, so it came after the fact. That day that we were out there we came out the following day. I had taken some pictures that day with the Holzapfel. So here's the front of the, if you will, East Main Street. So what you're looking at here is someone standing in their yard here and looking in this direction like this. This is where I took my photographs from, just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like from the Holzapfel's yard. And there are some gaps here and there. There's this big area here that are all rhododendron bushes. They vary anywhere from 8 to 10 feet high. They're pretty mature. That's this darker area here on our plan. And it's a mix of evergreen trees, primarily up in here, but there are also deciduous trees as well. Some of the vegetation along the property line that's on Mr. Scrivanos' side would have to be removed in order to build the retaining wall that would support the septic system improvements. But we feel that we could help fill in the gaps with the Holzapfel's permission and come up with a scheme that was attractive and would solve the problem or the potential problem of, especially headlights, if you will.
How far down is that? How long is your new leaching field? How long is the wall? How high is that? Does that go
It
from
runs-
there
it-
all the way back?
That's right. It varies in height, of course, because when we
Right,
get out here,
okay.
it's only about 4 feet high.
Yeah,
And
and
then at its highest, it's 5 to 6 feet high along the property line. Your property drops down a little
Right,
bit, and
yeah.
so it sort of gives you
Yeah.
that 6 to 8 feet feel. But it runs the length of the property down to about here.
So where that drops down now, where it comes down, slants down, you're gonna extend that out like maybe 20 feet or so? That
The,
wall, that leaching field?
So there is an existing retaining wall that Mrs. Holzapfel is referring to. Oops.
Oh, sorry.
All right, no problem. I'll just put that down. Put that in here. This is the existing septic system here. There's an existing retaining wall that's about 5 or 6 feet
Yeah,
from the property line, and in the existing condition is a stockade fence that runs the length of the property line, so.
Is that on top of the retaining wall or in front?
no, it's in
This is
front.
the existing condition, it's in front of the
Or
wall.
on her side of the
her
wall,
side.
so to speak.
That's right.
Not on her property, but on her side of the wall.
That's correct.
And it is 8 to 10 feet. They did,
The fence
that
is
is a
pretty high.
very tall fence, only, and that you did it for our privacy and
Right.
et cetera.
So, so this is the beginning and the end of the existing retaining wall, and as you can see from our other plan, we're adding on, we actually have to move the septic leaching field, because in the existing condition, it actually falls within 100 feet of the wetland. And in order for us to make the improvements, we have to move it in this direction towards East Main Street, and so it's gonna be in this area here, and that's gonna result in having us extend this retaining wall in both directions here, and moving it a little bit closer to the property line.
So I'm trying to understand the difference between the existing elevation of the septic and the new proposed elevation of septic. You're increasing, because I can visualize the property, I've been out there and I've seen the septic, so are you going,
We have to pick it up another foot.
Another foot
And the
on top of
reason
what's
is,
there
existing septic system, it's around a 1,500 gallon per day system, and we're shooting for a flow of around 2,500 gallons a day, and once you go over 2,000 gallons a day, the requirements change for the type of septic system. We have to do a pressure dosed system, and when you have a pressure dosed system, you have to take into consideration the mounding effect that happens underneath the septic system, and for this size septic system, that's gonna require us to pick up this septic system an additional foot. The other thing we're battling, this is a double-edged sword, we have excellent soils, it's all sand out here, so the soils are great, but they perk too fast, and that is also working against us, because instead of a normal 4-foot separation from the bottom of the septic system, we have to have a 5-foot separation, because the soils are so permeable. And so that's the reason why the septic is gonna have to come up another foot.
We are aware of your concern, so is there anything else you'd like to say? We're obviously going to have to address that. That's one of the big, the whole thing is practically tied into the septic system. I mean, the parking is the driving force here. And so obviously we'll be talking at length about this, so thank you. While we're talking about the septic system, obviously you're squeezed for space. There's no way to tier that retaining wall on their property line. In other words, have like if you could have a 3-foot and then a small planting area and then another 3, that would do a lot for softening that wall. And then on top of that, I doubt you have the room.
Not on our property, we don't.
Yep.
Because of the requirements of Title V, and the height of the retaining wall is dictated by the breakout elevation. Because we are so squeezed in this, I'll call the skinny rectangle here, we have some wetland resources that we're dealing with. This very dark line here is the 200-foot riverfront area. It's a 200-foot offset from Pembrook, and then the 100-foot buffer zone from the wetland is this line here. We've been working on this for over a year, trying to think of different ways to maybe, can we put it underneath the parking lot? The grades would just change too much, because we're so close to the groundwater, the septic system has to be up so high, we would actually have to grade higher than the actual building. And so we have to tuck it over where it is today. We do have the ability, because this is greenscape, to move it in this direction. So this is the only available spot on our property for the septic system.
Can I ask
Absolutely.
sort of a backing way up here a little bit as far as the septic? What's driving the whole need for the septic upgrade really is your desire to change your use, correct? I mean, what is it that's driving all these modifications to increase the septic system? It's not the upgrades to the building. It's not some of the modifications to the variance for the sign and everything. It has to do with the fact that you'd like to add some uses that you're currently not allowed. Is that right? I mean, what else is driving the upgrade to the septic, I guess? Let me just ask it this. So why do you need to upgrade the septic capacity?
So, yeah, sure.
I mean, I'm trying to just figure out the driving force here so we can understand, you know.
Right. So the existing septic system, when it was designed back in 97, 98, was it was a 1,500 gallon per day system, and that it does limit the number of tenants and the type of tenants that we can have at the facility, whether it's retail or office, and increasing the size of the septic system does increase the number of possible uses. I don't think we could ever support another restaurant if, with the Dunkin' Donuts, for example. That's just not in the cards based on even what we're doing. So it's just gonna allow Mr. Scrivanos to maybe attract different types of users that have different flow rates than than just a retail or office. And so, again, in short, it's just to give us more options for tenants.
Yeah, well, absolutely, medical,
They're big
veterinary,
users. They're big
Is
users.
it the medical offices that is the biggest user here? I'm just trying to understand, because you're asking for retail stores and services, business and medical offices, an animal hospital, printing shop, I would assume an additional restaurant, you've already got one, and nursery school. So I'm just trying to understand which of those uses. I'm not a planner, so I'm not exactly familiar with. Which of those uses are the ones that are the big driver for water usage or septic requirements?
So the restaurant is probably the highest. If it was a sit-down restaurant, you're looking at 30 gallons per seat per day. A fast food category restaurant like a Dunkin' Donuts has a 20 gallon per seat flow rate. And then doctors, each doctor in a doctor's office, it's by the doctor. It's 250 gallons per doctor per day. Those are, when you add them up, it's a lot of flow, and it limits the other parts of the building. There's a lot of vacant space right now.
It's not to say that, those are obviously the design guidelines that the DEP has within their Title V septic system regulations. Typically a flow isn't gonna come near that, but that's what you have to design to. Those flow rates haven't changed since the 70s. And, but that's what we have to live by.
Or their peaking factors, they're essentially double what the
Right, of
typical daily flow is to account for some kind of a peak event.
right. There's 2 vacant units there right now, right? Is there only 2, or is there,
No, we have several.
really?
It's a big building.
So are there units within the main unit? Like, I can only see like 3 doors, so obviously, one of those main doors you go in, there's units within that.
Correct.
So you show 10, correct,
Two in
on the
rear.
plans?
You got 2 in the rear that we don't even see, I believe.
That's-
I believe including the 2 storage areas in the back
Oh, are those 2 storage, those are,
that don't have storefronts.
Right.
okay, but you're putting in storefronts.
Well, for the 2 in the back, we would contemplate having it like as a storage facility or something. It's not really conducive to a retail store.
Maybe related to office or something, or
Yeah.
Okay, I
ancillary
thought
fees.
that you were adding windows, but maybe I'm looking at the wrong
How much are
area.
you increasing the
Just on the sides.
capacity of the septic system?
By 1,000 gallons,
And that is percentage-wise, how much? Oh, so it's like,
from 1,500 to 2,500.
right. So so you can expand the different uses that you have for that building, but obviously you couldn't have one of everything, right? It wouldn't, no way,
And you can't have 2 restaurants.
right?
Yeah,
Well, what,
so,
so it would be Dunkin'
Well-
Donuts and,
Well, I shouldn't say that right away. There are probably some restaurant styles, maybe some low flow type users, but a sit down restaurant would be a big user. And that's where Attorney Smolak was getting at, that really the site is limited by the number of parking spaces, by the septic system.
Right.
We can't just, we're not looking at some big user because we can't support them.
right.
That's why I'm wondering where the 2,700 came up with. Where you came up with the 2,700, is that, the restaurants, the highest use, and you're assuming all the tenants would be restaurant, or some, I don't know how that.
Oh, the number, that's.
Yeah, the 2,700 gallons a day number, I'm just You don't have to, I know you've been working on this for a year, but I'm just kind of in context, what would you envision that would require 2,700 gallons a day? As far as tenant use?
We can come up with various, categories of, that would add up to that amount that the building could support. For some examples, if you'd like, I mean, I don't have any this evening with me, but
But what made you decide on the 2,700? I think that's, why was that your design value?
that's the available area to us.
Okay, so it's just based strictly on area.
You can't,
And if they
that's
had,
it.
if they had way
Okay.
more land, they probably would triple the size of the
Okay,
septic.
I just wanted to understand, that's, I think, what
So
you're asking.
you're looking at the existing available space for septic upgrade and
Yep.
your.
Right, maximizing it.
Right.
Okay.
Rosanna,
Just,
did you?
just one note, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
is that currently the landscape is, a medical office and a doctor and Duncan, and Duncan obviously will continue to stay there, but we don't know if those tenants will remain, and so therefore they may turn over and allow us to have a different combination, so there's a lot of different scenarios over
Right.
time that could develop.
Yep.
I totally understand that. I was just wondering, as far as the septic, what's driving the septic need, whether it was, potential tenants coming in that required the septic use, or whether that, I understand what you're saying is you've got a certain amount of space, you're just trying to
Right.
maximize it, which would give you the most flexibility, whatever that may be, to
Right,
house
that's-
tenants that would not exceed 2,700 gallons a day in use.
Right, because
septic.
tenants will always turn over and so on, so it's hard to, it's sort of a moving ball in terms of what we would expect to be, who would expect to be leasing the premises. And, what we don't want to have is a situation where we have the Dunkin' and one small restaurant, and then we have all the space in between that we can't use because we don't have capacity, so.
That's what I'm getting at as far as, you asked for scenario, so we talked about scenarios. I would be interested in seeing how that might be utilized from a tenant use. In other words, I don't know if 2,700 gallons a day would perhaps allow, a hospital to go in the whole thing, the whole thing be restaurants. What kind of a mix of potential tenants would sort of max you out, I guess is what.
It's a lot of retail, retail's 200,
Mhm.
is kind of what we found, I mean, we've run scenarios, so we can definitely provide.
Sure, I'm
them.
sure you
So
have, of
we've
course,
had-
because-
we've had to figure out, well, 2,500, what does 2,500 get us, what does 2,700 get us? What's the optimal, the doctors stay, the doctors leave, so certainly that's a reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things in my mind, you're looking at upgrading the building, which we certainly will talk about some more details, but to me, that kind of makes sense. The water resource improvements, which we'll get into more detail on that, I'm sure, makes sense. Everything kind of makes sense. But then again, the use modification would be the big one, and of course the septic upgrade. I think the abutter has a very legitimate concern, which you guys are obviously on the road to trying to mitigate that, which is nice to know. But again, I'd be interested in understanding what the town's going to end up with here as far as any kind of impact, and that use can be interpreted.
I don't think they know.
Well, they don't know exactly, but
We know what we can.
What do we?
We know
Ton of
what do we-
options that you're asking for use variances, but I don't think you really know until somebody signs a lease.
Sort of a chicken and the egg sort of situation.
It is.
that
That's
we
right,
need to
but-
have, we need to have.
But they have a technical limit here of
They
septic
do.
use, which is going to limit what they can do. And I'd like to
who
know
is
what
the-
that limit is.
Who's the oversight on that? Would that be Board of Health saying, oh, wait a second, you put a doctor in here now?
Actually, you guys could probably
It's
answer
the
that.
building inspector together with the
Board
Board
of
of Health.
Board of Health has already approved this design, I assume.
They have not.
Okay.
We're in the process of putting plans together. We want to make sure that, we're taking the proper
Do they
steps.
approve your tenants as they sign leases? I mean, as your tenants turn over, does the Board of Health review that to see what the impact is on your?
That's a good
septic?
question.
I think that would be the building inspector, but usually they would circulate a sign-off for new tenants, I would think. So-
Yeah, there's-
They pull a
Well-
building permit and the building inspector then would circulate that into the.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, for a build out of a particular unit for
Right.
use, yeah,
Yeah,
sure,
for an outfit,
okay.
for an outfit, that's part of the process, everybody
Right,
needs to have to
so
sign off.
that sort of answers
Yeah.
your question as far as who's gonna regulate.
Yeah.
These guys are gonna ask for 2,700, you're not gonna all of a sudden be using, 5,000
Right.
without.
Right, and so, I mean, we could run through the scenarios, but it's difficult to predict, you're right. It's difficult to predict who's going to be the tenant there. You know, we're not gonna have a lot of restaurants, there's no way. And so, you know, that's why we've sort of put together a menu of potential uses, to
That's why you've
examine.
asked to add a few. So, what would be your?
No,
Well, my point is that like they're asking for some additional uses, so we have a variety of possibilities. That would be nice. You have like daycare, and then you have Dunkin' Donuts, and then you have a doctor's office, and then you have, I don't know, a couple retail shops. So, and that kind of works it out. What would be a worst case scenario in your mind? I don't mean to put you on the
I
spot.
don't know. That's why I'm kind of asking the questions.
Well, I think a worst case scenario would be if actually a hospital like Leahy Clinic took over the whole thing.
Maybe not. I don't
It's
know
just
what
not
the
as
traffic
interesting.
impact is and what
Right.
everything else, so I don't know what the impact for the abutters would be, but, I think anywhere where you have retail, a lot of people coming and going, particularly, opening and closing a door, she's got a visual issue over here, but she's also gonna have a noise issue. People opening and closing their doors if they're staying open late at night. Doctor's offices close early. Dunkin' Donuts restaurants stay open much later.
Yeah.
You have lights coming on and off, some, time of day types of things. All these things come into play, obviously. You guys do this for a living. And she lives right next to it, so you know better than
But
anybody.
I honestly we have never had an issue with the lights going on and off. They shut them off when they close, and you close at 9 or 10.
I think.
They don't stay open late, which
Right.
is wonderful for us. I mean, seriously. But
It
I
is,
don't
and-
know if you're allowed to stay open later.
Till 11.
No, I think there's limited, right, the hours are.
You understand what I'm getting at?
Oh,
I'm no expert,
absolutely. Just
so
to
I'd like to
get-
just
just
get a
to-
feel for
Right.
what,
Just to give you an
this might
idea,
allow.
for total number of doctors, for instance, the facility, if it was completely medical, it could only support 10 doctors. That's it.
okay, so there's.
If Dunkin's
there you go.
wasn't
I mean, that's
there-
the
So it
kind of
can't
thing
be
that
a
I'm
com-
sort
That's
of.
a Dunkin'.
The clinic.
That's if Dunkin' was gone.
want a lot of
If
retail
it were all
otherwise.
restaurant, you might get, one more tenant in there. I don't know, another fast food on the other end or something like that. Could it even support it? I don't know.
That would result in a lot of empty space.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
between,
that's
right,
the
right.
point.
In
So
between.
so in all likelihood, you're not gonna probably ever have another
Not like-
fast food
Right.
restaurant of any kind on the other end near her, because you can't support it. Otherwise, that would just be nice to know, because
Right,
now we're
absolutely.
assessing the risk to the detriment to the neighborhood,
Right,
and I'm not an expert in.
Right,
in
sure, we can
septic
take
use.
these uses and come up with a matrix.
You know what I'm
and-
getting at?
yeah,
Sure.
those are perfectly reasonable questions, and basically what we tried to do is take those types of uses that weren't noxious and have sort of a low intensity.
Yeah.
And because we understand the sensitivity to the abutting residential uses, so. And also, by the way, I mean, you have commercial on the other side too, so on the other side of 133, but we certainly understand that. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, the other issue I wanted to mention is that, in terms of the septic system, the building inspector did not say that would require any zoning relief. But certainly in terms of the fencing and the screening, that's something that's certainly within the purview. And actually, we're working, with folks on that, and we'll try to come up with a plan for that. And that was the start. So.
I'd love to see a visual impact from the road as well. It's not just your property. It's when you're looking at the hood of a car that is now 6 plus another 3 to the top. I mean, that's up. You're looking right at the hood of a car.
So from the street,
Yeah.
that grade of East Main Street is actually a little bit higher
Yep.
than our site.
Yep.
So the retaining wall out front would only be 3 or 4 feet high at that location
Yep.
out front.
There's a guardrail on there or something, I suppose, or
along the parking
the
spaces.
parking side.
Yeah,
That's
but,
right, with
but
the-
as long as you have screening or some sort of a solid fence in the area where the headlights would be, I mean, and plus the fact that the headlights would more often than not face towards the building. I mean, there's a little bit
Right,
on the side
right.
as one would drive in there into the space, you might have some visual impact that we would buffer, but that's the reason why we put the parking on that side as opposed to the spaces right
Sure,
directly against
yeah.
the abutting residential use.
And Paul, just FYI, when they do site plan review with planning, they're gonna go, they'll do design, they'll do parking, and
I didn't,
They
I
do-
didn't know you hadn't gone to
They'll go
planning
through
yet.
that. No,
No,
they
no,
gotta
we
go
have-
after us.
Yeah.
See the
okay,
site
yeah.
plan review.
Okay,
And
all
so
right.
I'm sure
Yeah,
that will
yeah.
be.
Oh, that's right, we've been
really-
through
So
this
they're,
before.
so they're gonna do
Right.
parking.
It's kinda
and
weird
that.
that we, and, you know, in particular, my interest is almost entirely aesthetic as it impacts a town, and that's just happens to be my interest, so it's challenging sometimes for me to let go of these issues of aesthetics and let the planning board do it, so maybe I need to change boards or something, so maybe that's what I'll do. So, all right, so you're gonna have to
Oh,
face the
that way you
planning
find a
board.
replacement.
We're done. We need 4.
Yeah, don't worry.
I have a
Not going
question.
anywhere.
The retaining wall, is it higher than the parking? What I'm thinking about is driving. Is there going to be bollards or something to keep from a car from backing into the fence? And
Sure, on both sides, there'll be a guardrail.
okay, like
A guardrail
against the fence,
system.
just to protect.
That's right.
Yeah, probably would. It'd be
What's the
nice.
overall percentage of increase in parking?
So we're going from 62 spaces, and we're adding 23. So it's about a third.
All that 23 is on the septic, or are you adding parking in behind?
Back to,
Actually, that number, I apologize, no, it was 30,
Actually, we're adding
36.
36.
36. It's,
15,
little over
15 in the
15
back,
around, yeah.
and, yeah.
Are you gonna? And this might be a site planning question, but I drove back there and it was, dusk, and it's definitely. I'm assuming, like, there's really no access. My point is, I'm not gonna park back there if I need to get to the front. Is there gonna be access for people through the building? Because I don't see it from back here. I'm thinking the spot straight back.
Talking about parking back there and having to walk around to get
Yeah.
into.
Right, so, go ahead.
Yeah, that's probably going to be designated as employee parking, so that folks
Okay.
will park there, and so that we can maximize the free spaces up front.
And they'll have lighted, safe
Right.
entry.
Right, and that's again, that's
That's
more of a
planning.
site, I mean, it's a good question, but,
Well, and
Yeah.
it's a concern of mine
oh,
just
sure,
from being
safety
back
concern,
there,
right, right.
especially kids. Okay.
So while we're talking about parking, I would imagine parking also limits your use combinations as well. Not perhaps governed by the town in any way, because the health department doesn't necessarily care about parking, I don't think. Is there anybody that would have to sign off on any particular use exceeding available parking,
Against the
other than
building
your?
inspector.
Yeah,
other
it'd be
than
the
your
building
owner?
inspector, we'd be back,
And
we'd be
planning,
back to you.
right?
Yeah.
Um, If we.
Well, if we allow these uses, for
Mhm.
example, and okay, you've used them, but you've used, so.
Right.
It's sort of the same issue as the septic.
Yeah.
The septic
Right.
governs what you're allowed to, number of
That's
parking
right.
spaces similarly allows.
Right.
So as we look at maybe a scenario or two, it's really a combination of sewage flow and available parking that would
Right,
dictate what sort of combination of tenants, I would
Yeah.
think, is that correct?
yeah, that's correct, I think, we ran, one of the rough calculations we ran was, if this was 100% medical office, would be 30 or 40 or 50 spaces underparked.
Mhm.
And so, we wouldn't have that scenario because we have the Dunkin' Donuts is the anchor, so we would never have that scenario anyway, so, but what we're doing is we're decreasing the nonconformity by providing the additional spaces,
Okay.
so, and that's a discussion that I had with the building inspector on that very issue, so it'd be a natural policing by the building inspector to make sure that, our parking, I would envision that every time that we were going to pull a building permit, we are certainly identifying the use and the square footage, and so we'd have to constantly adjust the parking to make sure that we comply
Mhm.
with the requirements.
For the uses that you've chosen, was there any? Were they just you kind of figured out which ones would be easy fits? I'm only thinking of.
Well, in large part, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just thinking like with the nursery school, there's no place for a play area, so I'm just wondering if that's really an appropriate choice.
Well, I think.
I mean, I'm not
Sure.
judging. I'm just
No, that's fine. No, I think in large part, and Rosanna, correct me if I'm wrong, but in large part, it was based on inquiries that the
Okay.
owner has received. So, in large part, I'd say that's the case. So, not to say that we have a live prospect on that particular use, but we want to try to cover what we can, so that we would be able to react quickly and turn things around. So.
The goal, the vision is to have it as a neighborhood plaza, and so those services kind of those uses fall into kind of neighborhood-ish uses. So that's kind of why we were headed in that direction.
Alright.
Kind of reminds me a little bit about when we were talking about Noonan's with their egress,
Yeah.
with what they were adding to capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, now is a good time for me to go back to number 7,
Sure.
because I don't understand how, that didn't happen along with the 50-foot wide going back to 5, between 5 and 7. I mean, I
Yeah,
know, you probably don't know either.
I don't know.
Right.
And I don't think anyone in this room really knows, but in terms of what happened, why it wasn't included, but, what we're trying to do is trying to make sure that, in terms of the conditions that we have, do conform with the decision, so whatever is issued, so, I can't give you an answer why that happened.
I have a theory. I don't know if I know there were some improvements done along East Main Street a while
I
back.
think there was a hump right there.
Uh,
Yeah, there was a little divider there, I think.
Changing,
Was there really?
Out here,
changing building inspectors.
yeah, it's possible there were roundings maybe at one time, out along the curb line, and when the improvements were done on 133, it's possible that
I think you're right. I seem to vaguely remember there was some sort of asphalt something there. And you're right, they changed the grade by like at least a foot out there. And then they had to regrade the driveway. I remember that they elevated the sidewalk.
Right.
And then so it was a big hump right there. I remember people were getting stuck on the hump until they transitioned the new parking lot into it. But
Well, when they did the urban systems, I'm sorry. but
Yeah.
When urban systems came in, because we have a hump going in and out
yep,
of our driveway.
yep, exactly. So I think you're right. I think there was some half-ass sort of divider there, but I think people ended up just driving all over it. I think I vaguely remember that.
Is there enough room to even add one though, with you only have
Not at 30,
31?
no.
one of the
Not at
things
31 feet.
we could do is stripe it,
I was gonna say painting.
and that would help direct folks into sort of a left and right,
Again, this is a planning issue,
Yeah.
really, but
Yeah.
but it is relevant to Dave's point, because it's a condition and a variance that the zoning board granted. I think that's where you're
That
getting
didn't
at,
happen.
is this is a requirement and a variance that we're required to modify. It's in there
Exactly.
specifically,
I
so
don't think that went to
I'm
site
just
plan
kind of
approval. I
letting
think-
everybody know
Yeah,
that
I
it's
mean-
maybe planning, but it's in our decision for whatever reasons, and so
Yes, it
we're
is.
trying to deal with that.
Back then, I don't know when now with site plan approval, it was site plan review. I don't know if we had site plan review then, maybe, because that
maybe
didn't go, that's why it's maybe in our.
You're going to
that
site plan
decision.
review simultaneously with ZBA or
No, we're here
subsequently?
to you
Has to-
first.
In the
Yeah, right,
bylaw,
okay.
it has to
I-
be done after.
And so,
Suggest that they may have some thoughts on how that
Right.
ought to look,
right.
but
Right.
it's a decision that needs to be modified from the ZBA, so.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess,
Weird.
yeah, that's sort of the dilemma we have. I mean, a lot of your questions are very good questions, but a lot of that is dealt with at the site plan review stage, and I don't mean to sort of take away any of your jurisdiction or your review.
Absolutely, no, we
But I
understand.
guess the question is, if this is going to be modified, maybe the condition is as maybe further adjusted by planning board as part of the site plan review, so it ties in. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
But-
See,
Okay.
could you repeat that again? You're talking about the existing conditions?
Yeah, so they gotta modify, one of the things they're doing is asking to modify these conditions.
Right.
Primarily,
Yeah.
other than the first few, which, primarily to meet existing conditions, right?
Right.
And so they have to do with entrances and egresses and all that kind of stuff that's not generally within our scope
Well,
to
we
dictate or
could-
review, so.
But we're in a position to remove that condition altogether, and then if planning wants to add it back in, they can.
Not to the
Oh,
to the variance, but yeah, I mean, we'd remove it, they could
Right.
add it to your final
I mean,
plan,
we
right?
just
That's
need
right,
to, we're
that's
just
right.
trying to
So
clear up,
that makes
clear
sense.
some
You're
things
right.
up, yeah.
Right, because, I mean, there are so many decisions, as you saw. What we're trying to do is is trying to clean it up a little bit and try to create some administrative efficiency. No offense, we don't wanna see you every time we have a new tenant, and you don't wanna see us every
Yeah,
time.
we did.
The other thing John and I were talking about when he called, I'm like 64 to 74 East Main Street. All the decisions, going back to 62 where it started, say 66 to 68 East Main Street.
Oh,
So look at your decisions, that's the wrong address.
Well, it may
It's
have-
within it,
yeah.
or it may have
The
changed,
assessors may have changed the
but
addressing
I
system.
looked on
Yeah.
I pulled a 1962 file, and the abutters list said 66, 68 East
right.
Main Street.
Yeah, that's what it
So
does say
we'll
on
have
this
to,
one.
when you reference in those decisions and your motions, we're gonna have to say, you know, mention it.
Yeah, and
Right?
so,
I mean,
right,
it's
no, that's,
probably a good
that's,
idea.
yeah, that's accurate. And what we're trying to do is trying to create some administrative efficiency as well for this, and what we're trying to do is clean up the old conditions and make sure that going forward, it's, you know, in a separate, hopefully standalone decision, it'll incorporate all the required conditions and, try to make it as, you know, as flexible as possible as we deal with new tenants and the like, so. Because it's difficult if we have, if we're competing with another retail plaza that is looking to land a tenant, and if we can't deliver for 90 days in terms of securing a lease or getting permits and approvals, that puts us at a real disadvantage, particularly in this market. And I think that's what you're seeing today in terms of the vacancy rate is sort of a symptom of what's going on. So we're trying to
I
do this correctly.
understand, I
Right.
totally understand.
And all your questions are very good questions, and I guess what I want to try to do is separate the site plan
Right.
issues versus the ZBA issues if we can. Like, for example, like landscaping, I would assume that the planning board would look
Yeah.
at that in terms of the screening along that area.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, unless it has
Or the
to
plan
do
board.
directly with mitigation of detriment to the neighbor, which is
No,
really,
no,
that's, yeah.
And
You
contact.
definitely have that right. I'm just trying to figure out a way that we could try to make this sort of streamline it.
Yeah.
Because
So-
Larry Graham will go out, the planning board's engineer, and he'll do a report and a list of this, forever, you know, he'll
Mhm.
screening and parking and the stormwater.
That's an excellent point though, Jeff. You have to address whether it's a detriment to the neighborhood, certainly.
Well, that's, I mean, again, the types of uses, the density of the uses, all relate
Water
to really
resource.
impact, which, you know, if we
Right.
view that there's something substantial here, we need to find a way to mitigate it. Or, you know, they're not gonna pass the hurdle of a variance requirement, so I mean, you know. Can I ask you something about hours of operation? Are there any current tenants or potential tenants that really need to operate till 11 o'clock at night, or?
The current tenants do not, I believe they close at 5. I think, you know, we do have one tenant, potential tenant we're speaking to that's a driving school. They may offer an evening class for students, but I don't know that they'd be open till 11.
11 just
Maybe
seems
open
kind of
till
late
8.
to me. I mean, if we're talking about traffic, especially up on the elevated area, which I'd like to go over there again. I'm gonna take a little closer look at your situation. Doors opening, closing at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and it would be literally kind of on top of her. Maybe a fence might help mitigate that, and the plantings and
The
everything
other-
too,
the
but
other
it seems
point-
awfully late, that's all.
Is that the combination of tenants, right? So if you have, so let's say we stay the way we are, but then we add a couple of tenants, those tenants close at 5, so all that parking below will be open.
Right,
So
I
people
would imagine
most
that's not the
likely-
preferred place for someone
Right, I
to
mean,
park,
I wouldn't
yeah.
think, I wouldn't park up there if there was parking out in front, right? So I mean, I think there's a balance and, but to your point in terms of when people are operating.
Yeah, it just seems, I know the original decision was to 11, and
5 to 11.
5 AM to 11. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
5 AM
Dunkin's
isn't
might
necessarily a
open.
problem, but,
Does Dunkin's open at 5?
Probably, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Would they?
deliveries to be made during business hours.
Yeah, because they couldn't cook there or do anything because Pembroke's right there. You can't cook any food there.
At Dunkin' Donuts?
And they can't make the donuts there. They come from Haverhill.
Well, we don't think it up to me.
They don't.
No, I know.
Yeah, they
We
can't.
just think a friend
That's
would
why
say
they get
that.
the drive-through and they
Yeah,
gotta make
right.
the donuts in Haverhill and bring them over.
How do you know that?
I worked here in 1997.
I've seen where they make the donuts. That's quite an operation.
Well, I knew they didn't make them either, I could tell.
I
when ate
remember
them.
when they, I remember when they came for the building, they wanted to drive.
I hope so.
No drive.
I don't know.
Uh,
No drive.
well,
Yeah, no
This
drive.
is a
No
Is there-
drive-through.
This is a sticking
That's,
point.
that's the bylaw
If
provision.
we're, you know, we're gonna amend a decision, delete a condition that hasn't been followed.
There's no recourse. If it hasn't been followed, it hasn't been followed. I mean, there's no, you can't make them build it and then let them take it down again. I mean, we could. It might have been there, true. We should.
know.
Well, you're talking about legally.
Or, well, I don't
The
know.
general enforcement of the decision that's there now, you know, we've sort of
Then that
dealt
goes
with
back
that
to
before.
who's
We've-
the
We're,
enforcer.
you know,
Yeah, the building inspector, and
Oh, yeah.
and what we're trying to do is actually just clean this up.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's the
there
issue
are
with the sign as well.
inconsistencies, yeah.
I mean, the sign doesn't conform,
to what was supposed to be.
right?
Is there,
It was sort of,
so they're
Ignored.
asking for
be honest with you.
three, is it three different decisions here? Is that what I'm,
We're dealing with 9717, actually two.
two, just, okay.
two.
Those
209
two, like,
and 97.
yeah, yellow sticky.
Yeah.
You mean what we're reviewing for this hearing or the previous decision?
No, for this hearing.
Yeah, there's a variance modifications.
Yep.
Which includes the elimination of some conditions and synonymous with the allowance of additional uses, correct?
Right.
And a special permit for water resource.
So just two.
Well, there's.
Is that right?
There's the extension of the pre-existing non-conforming use, and that's where the parking comes in.
Oh, right,
and this-
okay.
and this on-the-ground improvements.
Yeah, that's not the same decision as the variance, that's the
Right, right.
modification of the,
So there's three.
I'm sorry.
And in terms of the variance, back under the 97 decision, there was a use variance granted, one of the conditions that allowed the restaurant. And so what we're looking to do is modify that condition as well to expand the potential uses that we've identified in our petition. And in addition, where there's, in terms of the freestanding sign, that freestanding sign is identified in the 97 and also in the 02 decisions. And so what we're trying to do
That's a
is,
good question.
again, clean that up.
Is that,
and
so
have
there's
a
actually
Because
three
on-
previous
Right.
decisions that need to be
Okay.
modified.
Oh,
Is that right?
Spell his first name.
That's actually
Constantine
97, 17, and
Constantino.
02, 09.
Two previous, but three issues
Yeah.
The last name.
Yeah,
this
the other-
time around.
Right, the other issue was
This
the,
should be typos.
to
But this
sort
is
of
the
clean
last
up those
name
conditions from
spelled different,
9717 that were raised in the
Right,
building
right, right,
inspector's
okay.
letter.
Assessor's office had
So-
it spelled with a K and a
So-
C and a C.
Just
I have
wondering if
another
there's,
question for you.
Sure.
Because what I'm looking at here too is, there is inconsistency in the spelling of the applicant, okay? Constantino, Scrivanos, Constantine Scrivanos, but they're spelled differently. Is it the same person?
Is it Constantino with a K?
yeah, that's just
Correct.
probably the
And is that
Greek
from previous?
spelling.
That is from,
Yeah.
That's from prior,
that's from the 97.
right, okay, so that was a different person at the time.
Oh,
No, no relation at all?
No, they are related.
Oh,
They are related,
Okay.
but they're not the same person.
Successor trustee
I,
for the trust.
cause I called the assessor's office and asked them, you know, is this supposed to be a C or a K? And they said
And the last name is
C.
spelled different too.
That's right.
There's a C and a K.
oh, that's interesting.
Is that a typo?
No,
It's not a typo.
Okay.
no, they're cousins.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Well, that's better. Makes it a little easier for us.
Well, yeah, because now, original guy didn't,
The original applicant did not follow those conditions,
right,
but
they're related. And there is a business
Yeah,
relation, there's a
yeah.
business
I-
relationship
So
there
the assessor's
somewhere.
office doesn't-
I,
Okay.
at this point, does does
I
the
heard
board
that.
have any specific requests of the applicant? Because clearly, I mean, this was great. I really have an understanding of what's going on here, but I do want to read this stuff a little more carefully to sort it out. So I would prefer to continue this hearing,
Yeah, I'm definitely
Um,
not ready to.
just so we
move
can-
on this tonight, but.
sort it out, and not only that, to write the motions that we're perhaps interested in writing and all that kind of stuff. So, if there's anything specific you guys want to request of the applicants, let's request it now. If we have enough information, then that's okay. We can continue it, and everyone can go back to their, you know, their homes and work this stuff out, and then come back with any other really applicable questions. But as we know, we're in that same situation where the planning board is going to get involved, so
Right.
we just need to think about the uses as Jeff has been addressing. Not so much the,
I mean, do we have any questions about signage? We barely talked about the sign.
Is that sign lit? Existing
There's
sign?
Two,
Doing
yeah.
water
Oh,
resource.
existing.
I believe it's
I can't-
It's a
externally.
Not
spotlight,
comfortable doing
right?
water resource.
Our architect is here too.
That's a separate application.
So it's
I understand, and I just wanna,
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
understand what,
hang on, you come on up.
currently the
We do
existing
need
sign
to
is
mark these,
externally
though.
lit. It's got
Right.
two light fixtures.
We have to mark the plan. Okay. I'm sorry, which?
We're talking about the
your
sign.
I'm sorry, I'm Matthew Juros.
Kind of bouncing around a little.
name? Can you spell your last?
Sure, Juros.
Okay.
So the existing, this is a graphic of the original approval. And then this is based on what was built, our renovation of the proposed renovation for the existing sign. So the existing sign has two external light fixtures that are down low, actually two different types of light fixtures, and they shine up.
They're like spotlights, right?
Yeah, they're sort of parking lot type lights.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, so the proposed
Weird.
renovation takes the same geometry of the existing sign and cleans it up, puts new materials in the same square footage of sign area, and gives clean, simple external illumination per sign bank rather than two big lights on either side.
So it's external illumination, but it's more directed towards the sign itself, so it
Right,
doesn't.
understood.
That's
So
less.
there's less
less
overshoot.
tenants
Right.
on
Light
it.
pollution.
So it has 6 instead of 8?
Well, so this was approved back in what was the date the
That-
approval?
Well, it's
97.
2002 actually
Oh,
was
that was
modified.
2002 was modified.
Yeah.
Right, and, so, and this is more or less what was built. And what we've done is we're taking that same geometry in the same area and renovating it.
Well, it was approved for a monochromatic, color scheme, correct, I think, I
Yeah, it was the
from memory.
gray and
And a
white.
wood carved sign
With
with,
wood.
with,
Yeah.
That's right, carved
Barnboard.
wood was
and
stipulation.
Wood
with gray, gray
blasted
tones, I
and-
think, or something, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, we should pull the language right out.
So, but there's a pink and orange Dunkin's, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I think the building inspector indicated that they were not, that's one of the issues that Dave was, I think, getting to at some point, was that there was a notice by a previous building inspector that during the
The
past
sign wasn't in
renovation, the
compliance.
sign was modified without ZBA permission. In other words, they weren't meeting the requirements of the decision, I think.
Yeah, that was 2009.
Yeah, it was not that long ago.
It was Quinn.
The original approval was for a sign that was 8 foot 7 3/4 wide. What we're proposing to put back is 8 foot wide, so it's actually a little bit smaller than what the original approval was. Fewer sign panels.
Oh, yeah, you noticed that. So you took two sign panels off.
Well, it appears that this was built and there is a concrete base that was
Oh,
in this
okay.
location, so it wasn't built according to the approved drawing.
There's currently 10 spaces there that are available,
Eight.
counting what's already occupied.
You know, we need to be able to be flexible to demise it as we get tenants in different sizes.
Well,
So, yeah, I mean, I think we sync the spaces with the
Exactly, I
sign.
mean, we can have a larger 3,000 square foot space, or we can have two 1,500 spaces, I mean, we do have a little bit of.
well, I guess what I'm looking at is the new sign proposal, because Dunkin' Donuts takes up one, and then there's space for 6. Now, if I'm tenant number 7 coming in, I go, where are you gonna put my sign?
Two of the spaces on the plan are storage, so they wouldn't have any signage. Like, if they were just renting it to store, clothes or something.
Yeah, they're in the rear.
Like, they wouldn't need signage, so that's why it's very, a lot of this, as you guys have all talked about, septic and parking are gonna dictate how many tenants. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, which signs, how many panels we can have.
Right, I mean,
And-
that I'm sorry.
And I think what you said is you would change the size of the signs depending on the tenants. So there's 6 there now, but if there were 10, you would change the
But
sizing.
we have no choice, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we have to work within that footprint.
Be a
And the
lot
square
smaller
footage is
signs.
approved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a larger one.
Or
I
two-
mean,
Or
two
two big ones.
And what you try to do is if there's a tenant that goes in at a much higher lease rate or they take more space, they want to have more signage space, and so it's kind of a balance that you work back and forth. But I mean, the square footage approved is sort of what we work with.
Should we go around and discuss, you know, maybe what concerns should be addressed, you know, if we continue this?
Yeah. Do you have any specific, in other words, do you have any specific things you're requesting of these guys to do a little homework on?
I would.
Okay.
Okay, and the first, I'd like to see a more detailed plan as far as a buffer between where they're gonna be parking on the septic. That's gonna be facing, you know, her property, be sure. And I'm not really sure as far as what we need to do, but I don't have a very good comfort level, you know, amending a couple of decisions that haven't been followed in the past. And it's specifically, and yes, maybe it's planning, but it's still, you're still asking us to, you know, to amend something, and you're increasing parking by over 50%. And back at the time when you had less parking, these were conditions that were never met. So, you know, it may be planning, but I'm still being asked to amend it, and I don't have a very good comfort level with this.
Could I respond to that, Mr.?
Please.
By all means.
No, I understand where you're coming from, and I guess that's something we'll have to investigate further, but on the other hand, too, if we're going to site plan review, well, actually, let me back up a bit. I mean, there are about 8 or 9 decisions in there that are totally inconsistent with one another over the years, and so the building inspector has suggested that, you know, starting from 97 forward, that 97 decision governs as well as the 02 decision. The prior decisions, you know, if they haven't been used, they expire for non-use after, you know, after a couple of years if they've been abandoned. So that's the position.
Oh, I certainly
Yeah.
understand that too, but it still doesn't help my comfort level.
Right, and what I can do is I can't respond to what's happened in the past. We have a building inspector that's been on top of this as we've been discussing this all along, and we've been quite honest with them in terms of the conditions, what's in compliance, what might not be in compliance, and so I don't know what assurances I can give you other than the fact that you know, what we want to do certainly is I mean, you have to have some faith in us to be able to comply with this going forward, and we have to establish that.
That's,
And
in the past, it just didn't happen.
Right, I understand.
Okay,
I
so
understand.
I don't have to have faith,
Right.
okay? It has to be earned,
Right.
okay?
And I guess in terms of the conditions that you've identified, like the landscape buffer and so on, and you know, I think what we don't want to have a situation is if you approve a buffer and then the planning board through site plan review changes it. And so what I may respectfully request is that if you come up with a plan, or if you see a plan that you like what you see in terms of the screening, that maybe in a condition, maybe this is detailed getting down the road, but perhaps you identify the issue that you're trying to deal with in terms of, for example, the condition can say that the board's concerns relate to buffering as it relates to the adjacent residential premises. The applicant has proposed a screening plan as shown as Plan X. That plan may, in the determination of the planning board through site plan review, modify those conditions so that they work together, so that we don't have to come back to you.
We did that with Noonan's.
We've done that in the
You've done
past
that,
with
okay.
others,
Right.
saying, hey, you know, we'd like to see you bring
Right.
something to the table and get it approved.
Right, right.
Could I expand on that for
Sure.
a moment? Because you might have another point you want to make, and I don't want to interrupt you, but
I have a.
honestly, what I'd like to see happen between now and when you come back is it Cynthia?
Yes.
I'm sorry, is you continue to work with Cynthia, to come up with something that she might feel is adequate to meet her concerns.
Sure.
She's the one that's gotta live there, and there's a lot of different scenarios, I think, and Paul's mentioned a few, and you guys have already worked on a few that would really perhaps help mitigate, you know, noise and sightline, you know, car light issues and that kind of thing. And maybe you come back with a plan that is maybe your best efforts and something that she may agree to. You can have some sort of another neighborhood meeting, if you will, and I'm sure she might want to come back and have some opinion on that. To present to us.
I agree.
I mean, if you're willing to do that.
Mhm.
If not, you can present what you feel is your best efforts, and we can have more comment from them there. But if she's coming saying, you know what, I'm happy with this, or she may not be, I don't know. That's something that. But in the past, we've had people come back with plans. They have
Sure.
meet all the neighbors. They've come in and say, yeah, you know, we kind of agree with this, and we think it meets our concerns, and it makes it our job a lot easier if you guys are willing to do that. So.
Right.
Anyway.
I was gonna kind of jump on that bandwagon too, because you've already done the landscape plan here. I'd like to see it on this set of drawings. And whether or not a fence is required, I was gonna kind of defer to you as well. Because as far as the detriment to the neighborhood, I think she's your neighborhood right now, and I think you need to make her happy. And the other thing about having it as a condition, this is one of the conditions that we're approving. So I think we can condition it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, there's no
Okay.
question.
Okay, I just wanted to make
no
sure.
disagreement. You
Okay.
can condition it any way you want. I'm just trying to make both the planning board decisions and the Board of Appeals decisions work
No, you
together.
don't want to go back and forth, and I understand that. But I like to see it,
Mhm.
so I can say, yes, this is what we're
Sure.
approving, basically.
Sure.
And going back to Dave's point earlier too about conditions not being met, when Duncan's redid their color scheme not all that long ago, they clearly and willfully, in violation of the most recent decision, changed the colors of that sign to match their facade of the Dunkin' Donuts. So it wasn't some really old decisions that were complicated that were ignored. The most recent decision that was pretty clear, and you got posted right up there, was ignored. And they were on notice by the building inspector at the time that what they'd done was not in compliance with the decision, and I don't know if there was ever any response to that. So, again, I just want to, you know, I agree with Dave. I'm a little, you know, I'd like to understand a little bit more about why what we're going to do, this isn't going to be an issue going forward as far as.
I have a question about that coloring.
Not that I actually agreed, excuse me, with that decision. I'm not exactly sure why a monochromatic, I believe it was a
And that's
grayscale
what I was-
design. I kind of think it looks better the way it is, but again,
That was
they
gonna
could
be
have come
my
to us and we
question.
probably would have said, okay, you know, I don't know.
Better, yeah. It's better.
But that being
was
said-
going to be my question. Do we have an opinion on the coloring and whether it has to be grayscale or not? I mean,
Well, it's in the decision. I mean, it was, for whatever reasons, that's what they laid out as being
but is that
acceptable, so-
something we want to change? Or are we going to,
Well, they'd like to have us
Have-
accept what they're proposing,
Okay.
which is, you know, for us to discuss, I guess, later if we have any issue with that, you know.
well, I'm just thinking to save them the iteration. If we have an issue with it, we should probably tell them now.
Yeah, I guess one thing, as far as the tenant signs, I think Dunkin' Donuts obviously is gonna have their logo and their color scheme, and that's what they're gonna wanna go with. If it changes a decade from now, they may wanna go to green and blue, I don't know, but unlikely, but they'll probably wanna modify that. As far as the tenant signs, do you envision color scheme on those signs, or, you know, I don't know, they can get awfully busy, and I guess if you're looking at aesthetics purely,
Yeah, you don't want like
I
24
don't know
colors.
what's your plan on that?
Well, it's hard to say at this point until we know what the tenants are.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I think we want to certainly try to make sure that we are consistent in terms of design with the sign and the building, but in terms of the individual tenant signs, it's hard to say.
So John, I mean, I think from a practical perspective, a tenant would have to go in for a signage permit, so I think it goes, I mean, we're not the only ones that decide what happens there, I think it goes back to the town, right? I would imagine they'd need a signage permit?
Yeah, go to
Sign
the
permit from the
inspector.
inspector, but.
Some retail centers have graphic standards and tenant standards, and
Yeah.
we're not legislating internally our tenants. I mean, the way the atmosphere in the market is we wanna get.
Sorry, I'm looking through
tenants
you,
on
but
board.
I'm not staring at you. He's right behind you.
So, you know, obviously we want tenants who have high quality graphics and it's legible and it's not too busy. We want it to read appropriately, but I think the regulatory piece is in the signage firm.
Well, let me ask you another question. Is this, what you've proposed, ideally what you'd like? Or are you trying to limit the existing conditions as little as possible? Because you may have another scheme that is even more desirable to everybody, but you've kind of limited yourself because you're trying to limit the number of changes. I mean, if we're changing the sign, I don't know. Tell me, maybe you want Duncan's Plaza, and then everybody's
respectful.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we can, give it like I said, the background of what everything that's happened and not happened.
I'm
So we were
suggesting
trying to
maybe there's
stay
something
within-
more simple, Dunkin' Donuts Plaza or whatever it is, and everybody gets their sign on the building, and there isn't all this mismatch out in front. Maybe that's what you want. I don't know. I'm just asking the question. Is this what you would really want, or would you prefer something else that might be,
That's something we can go back and
We can
discuss.
take a look at it. I mean, a sign pylon at the street is desirable.
Right, okay.
And
I understand.
having one currently is a positive for the property.
I would expect so, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
That particular one, it's effective, it's not ineffective, and so if we made it really ideal, it wouldn't be dramatically different.
Okay. So, fair enough. I just,
But
That's a good question.
thanks for asking it that way, because we're trying to find a balance in our heads.
you don't want to have to change it later without coming back here, that's all. Speak now, or.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
And
I
I will later, I'm sure.
Oh, well, yeah, well, I think I might too, but generally speaking, I think the intent is really basically good for the town, to make the building more attractive, make the sign work with the building, and, and then planning can kind of take it from there. It's just coping with the septic system thing is a little bit of a challenge, but again, maybe, I'm not gonna require it of you, but I'm just wondering what the true visual impact is when I stand back, because I happen to walk by there every day when I walk my dog, and the way it is now is lovely with that grass band over there, and it's just, it's a huge impact. However, I totally understand where people are going commercially. We don't wanna discourage business in Georgetown, so it's a balance that I think how you guys address that septic system and all that is it can be nice or it can be terrible. So, but you guys can address that either with us or with planning, whatever, so.
Right, and the driving force, again, is the parking and the septic, and as you see, it's very difficult to try to situate this in an optimal way. And
Oh,
what we
absolutely.
tried to do is, and as Chris has indicated, is try to look at, we looked at multiple alternatives, and this was the best that we can come up with.
Well, that's why I can't, as a retired landscape architect, the ultimate challenge is to make it look attractive.
Right. It's in your interest and it's in our interest.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right, well, because you're putting all this money into this nice building, and, I mean, you're making the building much nicer, and you're reorganizing everything, so. Anything else? Should we move to continue?
One more before, because it's something you may want.
Sure.
Honestly, it could be in here, but as far as the usage, relating to water resource, uses that may have toxic hazardous waste and all of that, we haven't really touched on that, because we're gonna wanna go through, as far as that piece of this, making sure all the requirements are met. So, if you haven't done so already, sort of an outline that there aren't gonna be any uses that would generate toxic hazardous
in there.
waste and so on
There
and so
is
forth.
a-
I think
Yeah,
it's,
It's
yeah,
in
yeah,
here.
they gave us a little,
Yeah, it's.
but relative to the potential uses, I think
Mhm.
is,
Okay.
well.
To see if there's any deviation from what we've.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really touched much on the water resource thing tonight, but we're gonna wanna get into that, I think, in a little more detail next time, because
yeah, right.
I kinda think you don't have any, or won't have any, and how.
Well, the possibility, one of the uses is a printer.
Well, medical, I'm kind of, well,
Yep.
medical uses, I don't know whether that would generate,
Yeah.
well, it would actually generate some toxic hazardous waste, so the disposal of that has
Yeah.
gotta be.
Well, right.
delineated up front. So.
Right, in the materials that we filed, medical waste is regulated separately from hazardous waste or from solid waste, and so, in the materials, we provided those regulations to identify how those wastes are treated. So, and plus it's a small component, but it is important that we, demonstrate that there aren't going to be any impacts, but I think if you have any further questions based on what
Yeah.
we've provided to you, would be certainly
Well,
happy
I'm
to
gonna
respond between now
review
and next
your
hearing.
exhibit a little bit further, and if I have any specific questions relative to that, maybe I'll email Patty
Right.
and she can,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
send it along.
I think there's really not much there except for maybe
Right.
sharps that are, regulated, heavily regulated.
There's a section in the water resource application submittal that
Yeah.
goes into the medical office, and very few household cleaning
Okay.
things and disposal.
Okay. What did you mention as far as, printing?
Yeah, like a copy center.
Somebody doing silk screening, there's potential there for, people to have, hey, I gotta have, I'm gonna have 5 gallons of this here, and then we're gonna say, all right, well, we're gonna want, maybe not us, but somebody's gonna want spill protection, like what we dealt with, on a much larger scale. I think it's basically gonna be a non-issue, but it's just something to be aware of.
Yeah, I was wondering if
Fair.
it becomes the tenant's responsibility to then come back, like if they're gonna do something that we don't typically allow for, they'll have to come back to us with their sort of hazmat plan and all that stuff, I
Right.
guess.
I would think so.
Because you really can't foresee what you would possibly be dealing with hazardous materials or something like, in other words, like.
Well, the
if
allowed
there's-
uses would sort of dictate the
Right.
potential for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what would
And if you
drive it.
deviate
They're
that-
asking for
you-
particular uses.
And if we
Right,
deviate
which-
from those allowed uses, then we'd have
Yeah.
to come back, at least on the watershed protection
Yep,
piece.
yep. Okay?
Spoken of.
I just want, if we could mark, we have to mark exhibits now because of open meeting law, so whatever we looked at, if we can mark those, whatever we looked at this hearing,
Yeah,
which would be that sign plan.
yep. Do we wanna put a little letter or a number next to, on the corner of all these? Are you gonna bring them back again, or are the ones?
I mean, or do you wanna just, like I made the list to mark the whole set that he submitted? And then you can refer back to them at the next hearing too.
Do that, that's probably the
So,
easiest.
that's the list I gave you,
Right,
okay.
so, this is, all right, but that's different than, no, these are all pretty much the same, right?
The site plan site is the same. We did present these photographs that I took.
And
Standing
That's that's the locus map, but,
is this one of them? No?
yeah, that's listed, and I have it listed.
Did you number it yet?
I didn't number anything
Okay.
yet, so I have sheet 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, and then for example, sheet 1 of 4 is site plan existing conditions. I wanna start with that and make that number 1.
Yep.
Site plan proposed layout, sheet 2 of 4.
Do they all have to be marked separately, each sheet? Okay.
Yeah, do they?
Yeah.
That's 2.
Do you want a site plan proposed grading and utility plan?
Hold on here. You want me, I'm actually gonna number these right now, right?
So you want them to
I
do?
was gonna do it
Are you
on,
gonna do
I
this,
can do
Patty?
it, I can do it right on my end,
Okay, yep,
okay?
yep.
Yep.
So, yeah, just mark them all.
So right through 1, 2, 3, 4, and then
And then 3 would be, okay, the grading, and then the site plan proposed landscape lighting plan, sheet 4 of 4 would be exhibit 4.
Yep.
Pylon sign drawing marked, that's the one that doesn't have the dimensions, street line, do you wanna mark that?
Oh, this one here.
Yeah, that one is,
No dimensions,
Mm.
722.
that one is the amended one.
I think we would want to go with this one. It's more accurate, correct? This is a,
Correct,
Yeah.
that's right, that's right.
So,
you want a copy of this?
you wanna not mark the The one is just, that's just the color options. of that.
Do you have this one, Patty?
Oh, is this one here?
I need that one of
Okay,
those
Is
take
down.
that the one you're oh, yeah, we should submit that one as well.
Yeah, okay, so that'll be 5.
Yeah, you have that?
Yep.
Alright.
Elevation drawing A,
Yep.
sheet A3.
Yep.
6.
Yep.
3 of them there.
And then that sign plan with the dimensions,
Which is this?
which is this one.
Floor plan, you got that?
Oh, wait a minute, nope.
You got
I
the
got
elevation.
wait a minute, floor plans for sheet A1 dot
Yep,
1.
Yep.
That's 7. And, oh, I do have one in here too. And then this sign
Right,
will be 8.
yep.
Anything else?
The water resource, watershed.
And then we
soil
have a
management.
water resource plan with the application. It's watershed and soils map dated 6/29. We can, that's I don't know, it's a separate application. Would you want it marked differently? It's a separate application, so.
Doesn't
Do you
matter,
wanna
just
mark
label
it? We'll just mark it Exhibit 9.
Yeah, as long as they're all, unique, then they can be referenced as needed in the decisions.
Okay, I have this. Okay. Thank you. Come on.
Is that all, is that everything, Patty? How about the photos? Do you wanna, are those included?
Well,
The locus map?
The photos,
we've seen them, but we don't have copies, do we?
I don't have,
Can
yeah, we
you
don't, I mean, we don't
send
need to
us
reference
one
those,
of
they're not gonna be included.
Absolutely.
Just a PDF.
yeah, I mean, I'm referencing them in the minutes.
Yeah.
Thought my computer just died.
Hit save, quick.
Save.
You could
Okay.
resubmit the smaller version if that's.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or
Send a
give them
PDF or
this
Word.
version.
Well, they were really, to
That was
sort of
more
outline the
general-
concern of the
and
neighbor, and you're gonna be,
give us a plan.
you're gonna be
I
perhaps.
took the, the line work that was shown on our submittal, and just sort of overlaid it on.
No, but you're gonna be coming maybe with another mitigation plan,
The land-
so
We
that's the
don't-
one we're
maybe
gonna
we
be
don't
more
need
interested.
them.
Yeah, it's the present.
I'll go take my own photos over the next time.
The only thing now, we have a variance in here, so we get them, if we're continuing, I just gotta check the, I think we have plenty of time. I just wanna make sure you don't go over 100 days with, so it was September, so it was filed July 29th. So 90 days is December 30th, we got plenty of time. I just wanna make sure you don't need an extension of time for them, that's all.
Not for next month, but
But
if
in
we
November.
continue for some reason next month,
Yeah,
we may.
you might wanna.
When is,
Cause you can't, if it's filed in July 29th, the variance, you have to have a decision within 100 days, which includes the filing, all that. So, December 30th is 90 days, January 8th is 100 days, I put it on the front. So, next
I
meeting.
think we should be okay.
You're good
I
now.
would hope.
So we have a hearing next month at 7:30,
Right.
What date would that be?
November 5th.
it would be the second hearing.
It will be the second hearing.
Right here.
It'll be like late. Because it's Nelson
I'm sorry, what's
Street.
the date, Patty?
November 5th. Immediately
Meeting
following the
the
first
hearing.
scheduled hearing at 7:30, which is 167 Nelson Street.
So I guess I'd like to make a motion to continue the hearing for 64 to 74 East Main Street to November 5th, immediately following the previously scheduled hearing at 7:30.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we all gotta be there.
November
Thank you,
5th.
thank you.
Okay,
One way or
thanks
another.
guys, appreciate it.
Can't get out of it.
And if there's anything else that comes up between now and then, if you
Well,
wanna
yeah,
shoot us an
contact.
email.
Yeah.
Yep.
Email me
Make
and
sure that
I'll
we
send it.
respond to you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much.
Motion to close?
Oh, yes. No, no, we don't.
No, we
No,
continue.
no, continue. We already closed the
Now
business
I'm-
meeting.
When
Alrighty
I look
then.
at Fishbrook, now I'm coming back.
Okay.
And the last name.
Right.
Okay. Bye. I'll be talking to you.
Okay.